today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can create and launch profitable native image ads so you can scale your dropshipping store to $1,000, $5,000, even $10,000 a day. I only have one goal in this video, and it's to show you exactly how to use and leverage native image ads step by step. And hopefully this is the last tutorial you'll need for the rest of the year on YouTube. Native image ads completely changed my life. I was just like every dropshipper just a little over a year ago, ripping videos from Calidata, stealing my competitors' ads, and struggling to get a product off the ground and keep it consistently profitable. And when I decided to learn this, that's when everything changed. And the reason why native image ads are so powerful, because they leverage raw storytelling to get the reader excited to make a transformation. In other words, a lot of the people that we're going to be selling to are in position A. Right? This is where they are now, dealing with a certain insecurity, problem, fear, concern, pain. And the whole point is with the story, which averages about 1,000 to almost 2,000 words of long form copy. The goal here is to get them to point B, where they want to be. And we're going to use proper storytelling to show how our product that we're selling is that bridge to get them from point A to point B in the most efficient way possible. When I first started doing native image ads, I started to see some amazing results. I finally started to see weeks of consistency, taking home a little under $7,000 in pure profit in one of my first weeks of doing this. And it was really cool too. I started seeing my average order value double and even in some cases triple. I was selling a product for only $39.99, but because of the raw storytelling and the people I was speaking to, I was able to get them to purchase 4, 7, 8, 9, even sometimes 16 items from my store, which just made it super easy to be profitable. And in the end, I can only thank native image ads for helping me get out of a ton of debt. A little over a year and a half, I was a negative $100,000 in debt to finally figuring out a system and strategy that works consistently. And that allowed me to do back-to-back 50K profit months. And I've also done a couple different challenges on the same YouTube channel, going from 0 to 1K a day in 24 hours. But native image ads has not only changed my life, it's helped fellow community members of mine like Emil do $1 million in just 40 days, including peaking at $43,000 in just one day. More recently, fellow community member Mark did $16,000 in a day, $87,000 in a week, and he attributes his success to the learning of native image ads, and he's doing this on 44% profit margins, which is just amazing. And another community member, Curtis, doing $400,000 in a little over a month and a half, also changing his life completely with native image ads yet again. And even Mason, a 17-year-old kid, peaking at $6,000 a day just by yet again learning storytelling, learning proper native image ads, and just applying the learnings of what I'm going to share with you guys today. We have a full video ahead of us and a ton of sauce to be dropped. I'm literally going to show you how to create the ads and load it up into Facebook Ads Manager. The only thing I ask in return is that you like and subscribe because of all this value that I'm providing. I don't know if there's any recent tutorials on YouTube showing you how to do everything I'm going to share with you today step by step. So the first step in this process is actually super important. You have to ensure that you're picking a good product. I ideally would recommend you pick a product that solves an urgent problem, emphasis on urgent problem, the type of problem someone has to deal with every day and are willing to take immediate action to solve. So I do have a couple YouTube videos, including the one before this one, teaching you exactly how I personally scour Facebook ad library or use certain tools to find urgent problem solving products. These types of products, guys, should fit into a criteria that solves and addresses certain things like fear, anxiety, pain, insecurities. If your problem doesn't solve, or if rather your product doesn't solve one of those problems there, then you're probably not dropshipping a good product that has enough demand. At the end of the day, we're trying to do deep storytelling. No one is going to read a 1,200 to 1,400 paragraph story and get to the end of it to buy an LED light. Okay, so you have to make sure it's not gimmicky, trendy dropshipping, typical dropshipping products. We're really trying to build an evergreen, long-term, sustainable brand, and we want to do that on products that actually have lifetime value, products that have demand, and constantly new pockets of people will be coming in with that same problem that we can continuously sell to. Now, could you sell this with supplements? Sure. Could you sell this with hair care, back pain, knee pain? Yes. Be mindful, these are typically more competitive niches, so that's not inherently a bad thing. It just means that you're going to have to become a better copywriter and a better creative strategist to create ads that stick out in the market, just due to the demand of other people running video ads and native ads to those same audiences. So I'll show you guys some compelling strategies to help you get an unfair advantage in the market. All right, so for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to use somebody else's store. I don't know who this person is. I don't even know if they're making a ton of money or not. We can use the Trend Track extension tool and see here that they don't have a ton of monthly visitors, or maybe they do and they're just picking up their store. That's totally fine. I found this product coming across it just randomly through Facebook ad library, but you would want to do your due diligence and make sure you actually search for a good product and don't just pick a random one off the internet. So I highly recommend you watch some of those tutorials and come back to this video, or even just finish out this entire video first, and then you can go and watch how to find a product. So for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to be using this product here. You may have seen it before, but this is just a gel cushion that helps relieve back pain, tailbone pain, and hip pain for people that sit down all the time. Now think about this, right? I'm sitting down right now. There's a good chance you're probably sitting down right now. Sitting down has just become a part of a society, right? Now that a lot of people work from home, or just work in offices, people sit all day long, right? So we automatically can just look at this product and know it solves a ton of problems for a lot of people. On top of that, a bonus with your product, if your product can also speak to different types of people, that'd be really good. We're gonna go and do some research in a moment here, but I can already just off the top of my head know and kind of guess the different types of people we can speak to, right? People that work in offices, people that work from home. We can get a little bit deeper, and you'll hear me talk about certain words like avatars and angles. And to put it short, an avatar is a specific type of person we speak to. I'm going to show you guys 2 different examples of winning copy that worked really well for me. I'll leave in the link in the description as well so you can look at that and analyze that yourself. And I'm going to show you the distinguishment between what we're going to be doing in a moment today. And we're going to be writing copy specifically to people based off of their mass desires. So I have 2 different and sometimes even 3 different approaches to writing long form copy. One approach is specifically writing to existing avatars. These avatars and avatars in general are people that have specific characteristics about themselves that allow us to create stories that are compelling to them. And in a moment, I'm going to talk to you about why that's important versus the alternative, which is writing to specific mass desires. One isn't inherently better than the other. I consistently test between the 2, and I've actually found success in both. In today's video, we're going to be primarily focusing on writing to desires because it's a little easier to get off the ground and speaks to more people, but more on that in just a moment. But this is going to be the product of choice, and then we're going to start getting into the different steps. So before we get into that step, let me spend a little bit more time on the avatars versus mass desire testing. There's no one proven way to launch native ads. You're going to see a ton of different tutorials on whether you should launch 1 campaign and 5 ad sets or 1 campaign and 1 ad sets. I've made tutorials talking about different approaches that I've tried. And what you have to understand is that as long as you're creating really good, compelling stories, that's ultimately what matters. The person that's going to find the most success in this is going to be the person that's launching more of these ads, testing different avatars and angles, and finding out what works more for them. So please do not get caught up into the actual media buying structure and strategy. I'll be showing you what I do and how you can launch this in a moment, but I just want to show you some more of the results and remind you the overarching goal and thought process behind why we're doing this in the first place. I'm literally going to show you one of my ads here. So I did a 0 to 1K a day strategy to show you how potent and powerful native ads are. You can watch that on my YouTube channel. And I got some amazing results, scaled a store and saw some really good profits. As you can see here, really good ROAS and ad metrics were just amazing. Low CPMs, advertising to the US, low cost per click, low CTR. Native ads are good because it just allows you to create a ton of ads quickly. We're using native images and long form copy that we can output way faster than we can with video ads. But I want to show you guys something really compelling here, right? So let me take one of my top spending ad sets here. I'm going to go to one of my ads, and this is no secret now. A lot of you guys already know what this product is. I revealed it in my community and showed you guys everything there. But if we go to the Facebook post with the comments here, I want to stress something very important. So here's maybe for some of you, your first look at what this would look like. I'm sure you're not clicking on this video with no understanding of what this is, but this is one of my stories that did really well. What I want to show you is the comment section. And pay very close to this. Native ads work so well for a couple different reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because it displays and shows into the Facebook feed naturally. It doesn't look and scream ad right away because it's just an image with a piece of story connected to it, right? So it's a lot of long form copy. I know initially some of you are going to say, there's no way someone's reading all this. You would be surprised, right? At the end of the day, we're storytelling. You're going to tell me humans don't like reading stories, especially people that we like to sell to, 35 to 50 plus. You know, there's, of course, millions of people that love reading long form stories, articles, blog posts still exist. So why wouldn't someone want to read a compelling story? And by the way, these stories are supposed to be reflections of the pain and issues that they're going through. So it's going to be even more personalized. But nevertheless, if you go here and look at the comment section, people are raving, all right? They're just engaging, having conversations, sparking debates, and you have even comments like this one that have 61 likes, 155 likes, 53 likes, right? This is one of the powerful parts of native image ads and why it's so great. If you ever seen a video ad on Instagram or Facebook, look at the comment section. A lot of times it's people just trolling in there, or there's just no engagement at all. Now, an ad can do really well. A video ad on Facebook can do really well and not get a ton of engagement. It could still be making that advertiser a ton of money. But nevertheless, we love this approach because Facebook is moving more and more to an engagement-based advertising platform. They want their users to engage, leave likes, comments, shares, favorites. And the more that your ad receives that engagement, the cheaper it is to advertise, the more people will reach, and the longer these ads will stay profitable. And that's the biggest thing. Video ads, probably you can get a video ad off the ground and profitable a little bit faster than native ads, but they'll burn out a lot faster, right? So video ads can shoot up quickly, but die just as quickly. So you need a system and process to churn out video ads. And if you're a beginner or someone that's not like too advanced at this quite yet, it's going to be hard to just output good video creatives, even with all the advancements in AI in systems nowadays. Native ads, the input to output ratio is far greater, and then they last longer. They take a little bit more work and a little bit more tweaking and adjusting and a little bit more capital of testing per day. But once they get rolling for you, I mean, I've never seen results and success like this. I've been running ads on Facebook for years. Really started focusing on dropshipping ads specifically about a year and a half ago. And these results are just disgusting, right? And it's because of this. It's a compelling story that gets people to engage. A lot of times they don't even realize that it's an ad. And yes, with the proper call to action and proper action steps in the copy, people will click the button and go to your product page and buy. I promise you, if done correctly. Another point I want to just quickly address as well, because I know this will be a topic of discussion. Should we send these native image ads to a product page or to an advertorial? Which one should we do? For the sake of this tutorial, I'll be focusing primarily on creating the copy and sending it to a product page, because believe it or not, this ad here and this entire campaign was straight to a product page. I didn't run any advertorials. I didn't create any advertorials at all. This was all going straight to a product page. You can actually see the link here. It goes straight to the website.com. And I was doing totally fine. It was super high profits. And this was in the middle of Q1, right? Look at the date on the ads here. So, you know, a lot of people were saying, well, your other stores, was it because of Q4? No, it's just because this works really well. So in the heart of Q1, when it was really, really slow, everyone was struggling, I was printing and still am with this strategy. So I think that's enough justifying and setting the table. I think we could finally start getting into this stuff now. Well, hold on. I forgot. There's another point of justification and just like setting the table that I want to make very clear. So I had mentioned just a moment ago that there's different types of native ads. And if you aren't aware, I'm going to share with you and break it down right now to make sure we're clear on the same page. I want to set the table for this. One isn't inherently better than the other. I'm going to, in this tutorial, focus on one of them, but I want to make this very clear. For those of you that are more familiar with native ads, you've been testing it, you've been running it, you've found success with it, I want to make this clear. One isn't inherently better than the other, and ultimately speaking, the end rule that I've been telling all my community members, and what I'm going to tell you watching this, it just comes down to testing, right? If you're not sure which one to try first or do better, or, you know, some work for better for others, some other, you know, other different strategies work better for other people. But when it comes to just getting a definite answer of what you should be doing, you're ultimately just going to need to test. All right. Enough yapping. Let's get into this. So real quick, I'm not going to read this entire story. I'll put this down in the description for you. This comes for a U-shaped toothbrush designed to vibrate and help take off plaque and bacteria off your teeth. It was one of my first dropshipping stores with native ads that I actually scaled and found success with. I'm going to highlight something important in this to justify that this is a avatar, right? This copy is built and rooted with the focus of speaking to a specific avatar. I'm going to call this avatar copy, right? Why is this important? Well, the type of copy you create has an impact on the potential performance and even CPMs and competition that is in the market, because avatars are basic unique characteristics of a specific person. And this is important to understand because people struggle with native ads because maybe they're writing, maybe let's say I'm selling blue light glasses, for example. Maybe you're writing copy to stay-at-home moms for blue light glasses. I'm just picking up a random product and a random audience. And maybe you write ads, native ads to that avatar, of stay-at-home moms and it doesn't work. And now you chalk it up to, oh, the native ads suck, or even worse, the product sucks. The product just doesn't work. I tested it selling to moms and it didn't work. What you have to understand is that a part of this process will require you to figure out different avatars if you're doing avatar testing, or focusing primarily on different mass desires. In this video, we're going to be focusing on mass desire testing. You've heard of this person, Eugene Schwartz, one of the greatest advertisers. He created this book called Breakthrough Advertising. Highly recommend you read it. I'm sure enough of people have talked about it by now. You should know about it, but highly recommend reading that book. We basically talked about how mass desires are never created. They're just channeled with copy. So I actually use the parallel of energy. So there's a rule about energy as well. Energy is never destroyed or created. It's just transferred. It's the same thing with desires. People have these innate desires, and it's our job to channel them within storytelling. With avatar testing, we lean in on those desires, but we lean in on them by leading with a certain type of characteristic. So I'm going to break it down in this example here, and it will all make sense if you're not sure. So the pediatric dentist, I want to make sure I'm not blocking anything on my screen here. The pediatric dentist at a private practice pulled me aside and said, whatever that device is, every family in Greenwich needs one. If you're not familiar with Greenwich, Greenwich is one of the richest cities or towns in the United States. It's actually in the state of Connecticut, which is where I spent most of my life, funny enough. I just mentioned casually that bedtime takes 12 minutes now. Total, both kids, teeth included. She stared at me like I said we discovered time travel. Here's what you need to understand. I run a venture capital firm. I've optimized everything in my life. Our home runs on systems. The Tesla schedules its own service. The fridge orders its own groceries. Our calendar auto syncs across 5 devices. Okay, so then we start to get into the pain and problem there. But what did you notice initially based off of what I highlighted, right? This is the hook. This is the first thing that people are going to start reading. It's very important. No one will click the product or click the button to get to your product page unless the first part of the story speaks to them, right? So what is important here? What did I highlight? I highlighted that the person I'm speaking to has money and is rich, right? Greenwich is a rich town. You have to have a lot of money to live there. They run, this particular person runs a venture capital firm, right? And these stories are always written from the first person perspective, as if I'm telling a story, sharing it on Facebook, so that person that's reading it feels compelled to read it as well and feel like, oh, this is exactly what I went through. Think of it almost like a UGC video. Think about UGC videos. What's so great about UGC? It's people sharing their experiences about how this product helped change their life from their first perspective, from the first person perspective. It's the same thing with storytelling here. So why is this important, right? Because we're going to, as the story continues, we'll tap into mass desires and talk about pain points and problems, but we're leading by speaking to a specific avatar. And this is avatar testing. There's unique characteristics that allow us to speak to this person and individual. Now, I'm going to read you another piece of long form copy going for the same selling the exact same product, going to the same product page, and basically tapping into relatively the same desires and pain. But let's read the first beginning and see if you can spot any specific avatar characteristics. I discovered why European kids have 73% fewer cavities than American kids, and has nothing to do with sugar. It's the toothbrushes they are allowed to sell there. The revelation came at 2:34 a.m. after my third glass of wine, staring at my laptop screen through tears because I had just gotten the estimate from my son for my son Oliver's dental work. 2,406 cavities. He was 5. The dentist's words kept echoing. We're seeing this more and more. Parents doing everything right, kids still getting cavities. Everything right? I was obsessive about Oliver's teeth, timer apps, fluoride toothpaste, 2 minutes twice a day, no juice, limited candy, the expensive electric toothbrush with his favorite character. Yet there I was scheduling a sedation dentistry for a kindergartner. All right. So just from that first half, did you hear anything about any characteristics about the person itself, the first person perspective? Where we know that this person had their third glass of wine, but is that a character trait at all? No. And that is fine in this tutorial here, because both of these copies worked really well for me. Both of them did really well for this product in the store. But I just want to make that clear distinction and share with you why we're going to be focusing on this one in this specific tutorial. So this is just tapping into a mass desire. This is basically casting a broader, wider net. Because if I go back to that venture capital, copy from just a moment ago, if I was poor or lived an average life and I started reading that wouldn't really resonate with me, right? Despite this, the product, if we go on longer in the story, we're selling the same product and basically to the almost identical same mass desires and problems, and the approach is basically the same. But that opening lead and hook, because that other story is more related to someone that actually has money and lives in a richer town, the rich people that read that will resonate with that and be more likely and more compelled to read. But the other people that are poor and less money, they're not going to necessarily resonate with that. While this, on the other hand, casts a much wider net. But here's the thing. There are pros and cons to both. Again, one isn't inherently better than the other. This casts a larger net, but in the landscape of marketing today, that can actually work in your favor or against you, depending on how competitive and how aggressive the market you're in, right? Because the reason why avatars are important is because it allows us to cut through the noise. It allows us to avoid being blended in with all the other advertisers, right? So there is a pro and con to both. Avatars allow you to speak to specific people, but here's the problem with avatars. You might pick the wrong avatar, right? Like you can pick an avatar that you can find through research, but sometimes avatars are too specific, too narrowed down that it doesn't resonate with enough people. And that's when you can have ads still not perform, because the avatar, you might start off in the first couple of days profitable, and then you see your results dip because there's just not a big enough pool of people that resonate with that avatar. So there's a world out there. There are some people like mass desire testing first, then they get into avatars and angles once they figure out the mass desire. There's the opposite of that, where people start off with specific avatars because they do their research. They understand what the market and competition is saying, and they know what avatars to go after because the other competitors in the market aren't going after those same avatars. That's what I did. When I first started the U-shaped toothbrush, I started off going after the same desires and then speaking to the same people with the same problems as my competitors, and it didn't work. When I first started, it was a bunch of people that had coffee stains and just basically adults. But then I realized by looking at the market that no one else was doing, parents that had kids with braces. So I just naturally went off the avatar instead of continuously desire testing. So hopefully that's not too confusing. This entire tutorial will be focused on creating mass desire testing ads. I like to really reframe it as Reddit testing because we're going to be scraping stuff directly from Reddit to do this. And that's going to allow you to cast a larger net. And then over time, if you're really good at this stuff, you can start creating specific avatars, which, by the way, all this stuff is broken down inside my school community if that's something you want assistance on. All right. We're 23 minutes in. Let's actually finally get into the tutorial. Hopefully you guys are getting a ton of value, but I have to set the scene here so you guys aren't lost and confused when you see me making certain decisions later on in the tutorial. All right. So the first thing you're going to need is this tool here, Reddit Comment Scraper. You're going to install this as a Chrome extension, and to scrape Reddit comments is the first step in this actual process because we're going to be doing some deep research. Now, historically, I've used specific prompting, Google Gemini, to do scraping, and I love that approach. It's still what I do a lot of the times, but I've been recently doing this a little bit better because what I find running a community of 300 members is that a lot of you guys want to just use the copy and paste prompts and scripts that we have, and then you don't actually read up on your target and your avatar. It's so important to actually read the Reddit forums, right? So all the research that we pull, a lot of it will be directly from Reddit because in Reddit, people are anonymous and they'll share their real pains and desires and problems. And it might not always be clear cut. So we're going to be using some Claude as well to use specific prompts and scripts to help us formulate everything and make sure we have everything in order here. But this tool here is very, very powerful. I've been messing around with a couple different Reddit scrapers over the last couple of weeks, but this one's been the most consistent, and it does come with a free scrape of, I forgot how much it comes with, but it's $4.99 for only the Reddit version. I have the full version that allows me to scrape Amazon, Quora, everything, which is like $20 a month, but you only need the $4.99 one. They do come with a free plan for a little bit, but you're going to see here in a moment, we're going to be scraping a ton of Reddit forums. Which is something I've been historically doing for quite some time. But this is more manual, and it forces you to actually go through and in the meantime, read up a little bit on the actual Reddit forum so you can be familiar with the product and industry you're going after. I also recommend you have these settings set up just like how I have it here: post title, post body, subreddit, and all this other stuff. Once you have that first step is done and ready to go. The next Chrome extension, and this one's 100% free, is called Go Full Page. We're going to be using this to take screenshots of websites and forums and stuff like that. unfortunately right now, Claude's not the best at scraping information from websites due to a lot of websites just having blockers. So it's not really Claude's fault. We're just going to be using basic Claude. I know Claude Cowork and Claude in Terminal and Claude Code is just very advanced, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're keeping it basic and beginner friendly. So go full page, 100% free. And this is going to allow us to screenshot websites and all that stuff and throw it into Claude to have it fully analyze everything without missing any detail. This next step is totally optional, but I recommend you do it if you're not too sure what to do. So we're now going to need to look up about 10 to 20 or even more Reddit forums that we can pull that has a that talks about the problem that our product solved. So obviously for me, I can clearly see and know what this product solves, or how this product solves a particular problem, which is back pain, tailbone pain, hip pain. So for me, all we need to do is type in the problem space Reddit, and I'll have a ton of forums popped up. But in the weird chance that you're dropshipping something where you're not 100% sure, you can always go to ChatGPT and just simply say, I need your help finding 10 plus Reddit forums that would speak to the problems that this product solves, and paste the link of your product. You can do this if you have your site built out, your competitor's website, the Amazon listing, whatever. Just have some information about the product. So that way ChatGPT can literally tell you what Reddit forums to look for. Now, it's very important though that we're looking for the people that left the comments, not the subreddits itself. So we're trying to stay away from the r/back pain subreddit. We're trying to specifically look for the people that have commented a particular problem. So how do we do this? Go into the search bar here, back pain, Reddit, right? And then we can go in and we're going to start seeing people that are lefting specific comments. But I'm curious, what does ChatGPT say? So sciatica pain. Okay, cool. Back pain. So these are going to be the things that I need to think about. And you gotta use your brain a little bit, and you're going to want to type certain things in. So a little hack for you is trying to be like a little bit specific in the sentence, right? So I'll do something like how to solve back pain when sitting, Reddit. So lower back pain from sitting, and then I can go back in and retype that in. So what we'll do is, you see how this is a specific comment from someone, and this comment has 109. That's really good. So what we're gonna do, actually one extra step that I forgot to mention here is we're gonna open up Claude and do a couple of stuff to preface this project. So we're specifically gonna go to Claude, create a project. I'm gonna call this, let's call this, what we're gonna call this, YouTube seat cushion. We're gonna create project. And then on the right-hand side is basically where you can do a couple things. One, you can instruct Claude with specific instructions of what to do in the story. And then two, you can also add files. So what we're going to do is scrape Reddit forums into CSV files, upload them here. And then we're going to also provide some instructions as well. So Claude, throughout this entire project, keeps consistency with the instructions that it's providing. Unfortunately, I can't share the exact scripts because my community members do pay a monthly subscription to get access to these same ones. So if you do want to hop in, I'll leave a link to my school community. You can go under the Facebook ads section under classroom, and then all this new stuff that I'm sharing with you guys today, the exact prompts and scripting will be located here under research document. But I'm going to paste the instructions there. You can see a little sneak peek of what that is. But I'm basically just telling my Claude project to keep in the main focus and mind of a copywriter with the experience of some of the top copywriters ever, like Eugene Schwartz, for example. So that's going to be in the instruction portfolio. You can come up with your own by simply just asking Claude for that instruction. So if you don't want to join the community, that's totally fine. You can figure that out on your own and just add that in there. Okay, so that is pretty much good to go. So back to this. What we're going to do here is we're going to go into the Reddit scraper once we have the Claude project open, and we're going to go open this bad boy up, hit scrape comments, and then we're going to hit CSV. And then now we have the first of what I recommend to be 10 to 20, maybe even more CSV files, so you can get really, really clear in defining information. So what I'll do is go back here, pull this bad boy up, throw it in the Claude project, and do this a couple more times. So my recommendation here is to make sure you have as much as possible. So you can even open up a ton of Claude projects and then go from there. So we're going to just go back in here, lower back pain when sitting. And I forgot to type in Reddit. So then we could just go open a bunch of tabs up like this. So boom, boom. And the whole goal here is that we don't want to create a bias report, right? So To ensure we're not creating a bias report, we're going to open up a ton centered around this particular topic, but we're going to bounce around here with different Reddit forums and open up different ones that maybe talk about sciatica, back pain in general, knee pain, other things that are related and come from this specific product or problem that our product can solve. So we'll come here and then we'll scrape this as well. Boom. CSV. And because this is, I want this to be as raw as a tutorial as possible, we're gonna go just do this step by step together, right? I'm not gonna even cut through this. You'll see me go through, boom, do this, boom, do that. And then as I scrape them, I close the tab. And this isn't gonna take too long. Now, I would recommend while doing this, maybe read up a little bit about the product, or not the product itself, but the problems people are going through so you can be familiar with what you're going to be writing. And also there's always the thing, right? Like write better copy, right? You're going to hear people say that. You're going to hear me say that. What does writing better copy even mean? It basically just means writing copy that allows us to speak to our target audience in the best way possible. What are the problems that they're going through and how can we better resonate with them through that? So to do that, and when you're going to troubleshoot and run your native ads, it really makes a lot of sense to actually know what the problem is. Read through what people are saying, understand the problem. I'm going to put in a prompt in a moment to help us understand the entire process and workflow, but it wouldn't kill you to actually read some of this through yourself manually, right? Because as great as AI is, I always say it can do about 70 to 80% of the work, but you still need human input to quality control check things and make sure everything is going as planned. All right, so boom. I'm not going to add the other ones. I want to see some other stuff, right? So office workers, let's type in back pain, sciatica. Let's type in office workers pain, Reddit. Right, so we know that's going to probably be a audience we go after, right? So is work-related pain serious to the office? Does anyone else feel like desk jobs are slowly wrecking their... Okay, so yeah, I mean, these are some good topics here. A ton of people are leaving some inputs on this. So I don't want to be too selective with what Reddit forums I pick, but I do want to make sure that I'm not, picking things that are unrelated. Okay, office job is wrecking my back, right? So there's some other underlying symptoms. So I'll tell you right now, 99.9% of dropshippers that are struggling right now are not doing stuff like this. So if you want to be the one that is being successful, you're going to take your time and add as much input and resources as possible. Anyone experiencing body pain when at desk job? So we're getting stuff here, and there's no amount of data points needed. So if there's only like 10 comments, that's fine. Throw it in there, because at the end of the day, all this stuff is going to be, we're going to be gathering all this information and having the cloud project understand exactly what to do there. So 10 plus comments. Okay, so we're getting a lot of stuff here from the desk work industry. And I love Reddit because, like I mentioned, people are not they're anonymous. So they're going to be really revealing a ton of stuff that other people would not really be mentioning. I switched to a desk job and I feel like my body's... Oh, look at that stuff, right? So we always talk about stuff like reading through, right? I switched to a desk job and I feel like my body's falling apart. Ooh, did they remove some stuff here? So that's fine. But there's people saying stuff that worked for them, right? So in these Reddit forums, people are sharing things that work, that didn't work, the problems that they keep going through. This is all going to be good. So when we create our copy, this is going to help us analyze what we can work on in our copy. Something as well too, if possible, we can even do like gel cushion Reddit. Right? We can see the exact product that we're selling and see what people are saying about it, so we can see how we can potentially navigate that, right? Maybe some people are talking down on our product that we are selling, or one similar to it. We got to see how that relates to what we're selling and how we can avoid, saying to them the same things that they already know about the product, right? So we're gonna, I opened a new tab. That's why I was like lost. So here's some people saying some stuff about the gel cushion specifically that we're going to be selling. Very rarely you're going to get a lot of Reddit forums on your particular product, especially if it's a newer product. So don't stress too much about it, but I'm going to throw it in there just for good measure there. What did ChatGPT say? What else we can do? Back pain, hip pain. Okay, that could be another one. So what we can do is hip pain from sitting, Reddit. And you guys can do as many as you want. as literally as many as you want. So we're going to close out all these other ones here, close out some of these tabs. I'm going to organize some of these bad boys here. So you can do as many as you want. Hip pain from sitting. And you gotta have to be a little abstract, use a little bit of your brain power. A lot of my community members hear me say that all the time. Shout out to you guys if you're watching this. But brain power, right? We're gonna have to be a little abstract. Some of you guys are gonna have to think outside the box. That's why that chat GPT prompt can be helpful for some of you guys, because you may not know exactly what to tackle. And I recommend you do research on your product so you know what to do and look for. Okay, so that's good. My body weight experiencing some hip problems. Let's throw this in there. Ooh, look at this. Look at this long piece of anecdotal storytelling right there, bro. That's gonna help write us some beautiful copy. Some beautiful copy there. That's good. Tight hits from sitting. And don't get too caught up with, oh, this Reddit forum was from 8 years ago. Don't worry about it, because at the end of the day, these are problems that people are still facing to this day, right? Do people still sit? Yeah, they do. So guess what? The problem probably still exists. My hip pain won't go away. Let's see that. So as you can see, I've added way more than 10 to the Claude project. But when you're dealing with these really, really deep problems, you can find tons of Reddit forums. Let's try to add a few more. I want to have diversity in the Reddit forum. Gamers, naturally speaking, because we're going to be creating these long form stories on Facebook, and we want to speak to people 35, 45, 55 in that older age range. I don't really care to speak to them. So gamers, I don't really care about. So truck drivers, Uber drivers, Door Dashers. So these could be other good people to speak to. Pressure, overweight, pressure pain. So we can keep going on and on. As you can see, this ChatGPT prompt is going to help you a lot with that. For the sake of this tutorial, we have a good amount, right? We can agree here. How many do we have? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So 21, right? We have 21 different files in here of Reddit forums, and each of these files has so many different comments and forums. So we're pretty much good to go there. And now we have a really, really beautiful file and documentation ready to go. So I was debating whether or not I would give this prompt for free to you guys in the description here, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to give you this next prompt here, which is very important. And this is going to help you conglomerate all your data and get everything organized and help extract that information from Reddit and tell you exactly what's going on in these Reddit forums and how we can speak to these different tension points that I'm going to share with you guys in just a moment. For my fellow community members that paid to get access to these prompts and everything, please don't get mad at me. I do want to help as many people as possible. So I want to share this with you guys for free here on YouTube. I'm going to refrain from sharing too much more than that, but this is something that's super powerful, and I would feel really bad if I didn't give this to you guys so you can leverage it. So we're going to literally just copy that in, paste it in, and then the Sonnet or Opus, whatever model you use, doesn't really matter. Just make sure extended thinking is on. For this, I'm gonna use Sonnet 4.6. And then in Claude, we're gonna do, we're just gonna enter and let this do its thing. So what you're gonna see in a moment is we're gonna develop 5 tension points. Some would look at this and say maybe these are mass desires. Not necessarily. They're rooted in mass desires for sure, but these tension points are going to be specific problems and pains that people are going through in the market based off of what we gathered from Reddit forums. So this is super important because I do have advanced level prompting that I use through Google Gemini. I still use that for certain avatar prompts and stuff like that. With those prompts, though, what that tends to happen and what that tends to do is that with Google Gemini, it will scrape stuff from Reddit, Facebook, all that stuff, but it also scrape peer-reviewed articles. It will scrape reports from Google and stuff like that, and it's going to kind of gather everything and put it all together and synthesize it in a way that uses a little bit of inferring, right? And that's not inherently bad. That's what AI does really well, is it uses data and information and makes really, really educated assumptions and inferences based off of what it's gathered. So that's good a lot of the times when we're creating avatars or trying to figure out new markets we can speak to. But sometimes, depending on the audience and the people you're speaking to, we want the raw information. We don't want the AI to guess or assume or infer. So in this exact tutorial and the rest of this training, you'll see that we're specifically building everything based off of what we've already gathered. And it's raw, proven information, nothing that's inferred or guessed upon. And that matters because when you see these stories that we're going to output, they're really, really compelling. We're going to read through it together. I'm going to tell you what to look for, what to avoid. And I'm going to show you how to create a total of 5 of these that we're going to launch in a CBO campaign under one ad set. So the focus here is to understand the report, read through the report, know who we're speaking to, know the common patterns and problems that they're going through. And also, it would be smart to go into Facebook ad library while this is happening and try to see if there's competitors in the market. Because at the end of the day, that does hold weight into how well and how easy you're going to be able to take a product off the ground. A lot of you guys struggle in the beginning and see high CPMs because you're going against these really big, seasoned advertisers and competitors that have been running the same type of product, or even if it's a similar product, maybe it's not a one-to-one product. Maybe you came across a newer product, but you're still facing high CPMs and seeing issues because you're still speaking to the same type of people or the same type of mass desire, and that's not a bad thing. What I'm starting to learn is that you just have to get really good at finding different desires, different avatars, and different angles to speak to. So again, the main focus in this tutorial is speaking strictly to tension points that are built off of a mass desire, right? I want to solve this problem. I want to solve this tension point. That is going to be classified as a desire. But we're going to be framing it as tension points because it helps us understand the specific problem, right? A desire is great and all, but we got to understand why they don't have that desire. Why does that person not have that desire? And why do they want that desire? That's where tension points become really important. And that's all coming from Reddit. Something I like to do as well with Claude is I like to see how it's coding and scripting things. And it's really, really smart and intelligent how it works. So this is some really cool stuff here. I will pause though and wait for this to give me the finalized report. All right, so let's go through this report together. And by the way, everything that I output here in today's tutorial, I'll leave in the description as well. I have a document with just basically everything you'll need. So you guys can have access to this, read through this on your own and learn more about this. So this is going to be the market intelligence report, and we're going to be breaking down the top 5 emotional tensions, right? So tension 1 is my body is breaking down. I didn't see it coming. So we'll see here that there's a frequency score. And this happens 10 out of 10 times, not 10 out of 10 times, but the score level on this, the amount we see this is so high, it's rated as a 10 out of 10, and the emotional intensity score is an 8 out of 10. So this is going to be the number one tension point, and this is where I would launch my first set of ads around this specific tension point. My body's breaking down and I didn't see it coming. So we're going to see here that the language is mixed, acute spikes embedded in chronic acceptance. So there's going to be direct language extracted. So we're going to see exactly in real time, what are people saying about the problems and pains that they're going through, right? So I feel like my body's falling apart. Office job is wrecking my back. Anyone else feel like desk jobs are slowly wrecking their body? I feel like I'm 30 going on 60. They also wreck the soul too. My body is broken from it. Ugh, I'm going through the same thing and it has led to horrible neck, back, hip, and shoulder pain, right? So we can read more and more and more. And basically, here's the report that's going to help you kind of understand the entire framework. The language in this tension moves across 2 registers, depending on how long someone has been suffering. Early sufferers express the breakdown with surprise and a kind of adolescent disbelief. I feel like I'm 30 going on 60. The framing treats the body as something that should be exempt from this, something that was not supposed to malfunction yet. Longer-term sufferers use the language of resignation, not outrage. Horrible neck, back, hip, and shoulder pain for over a year. The surprise is gone, replaced by flat declarative of someone reporting weather. The phrase slowly wrecking appears or is echoed across multiple posts and signals something important. This person's primary fear is not the current pain, it's the trajectory, right? So where they'll be in the next couple of years. They're not just in pain, they're watching themselves deteriorate in real time and feel unable to stop it. Low-key worried this will mess up long-term, even though I'm not that old, makes the timeline anxiety explicit. The emotional energy is directed both inward, my body is failing, and outward at the structure of modern work. The highest voted comment in the earliest database. So basically, you now have a pretty decent report on what are people saying, the exact words that they're saying, and the fears and problems that they're having. And then this will bring us to tension point number 2. I've tried everything and nothing has fixed it. Tension point number 3, sitting has taken something from me that I used to take for granted. Okay. 4, I know what to do and I still cannot make myself do it. And then 5, the system that should help me keeps handing me something that doesn't work. Cool. So now we know basically what those tension points are, but we're going to keep going through and understanding the failed solutions. So we'll see that there's a couple different failed solutions. And in copy, when you were writing copy that speaks to a certain type of person and the problems that they've gone through, we need to understand exactly what they tried and how it's impacted them and why it didn't work. We can lean in on that more in our copy. So we can say stuff like, in this example here, physical therapy is one of the biggest things that people have tried. You know, you could write copy that speaks to that and talk about how, hey, like, look, I tried physical therapy too and it didn't work, in your copy, of course. And, here's the same reasons, right? And those shared experiences, almost shared trauma, is what also makes copy really, really strong and good. So we know failed solutions. One of them is physical therapy. It was mentioned and referenced across 14 plus sources out of the many that we gave it. I have an ortho that I see every 6 months and going to PT every week since July 2025, and did not do anything. I've been in PT for 5 weeks, no improvement, right? So we're seeing a common trend here, even doing Pilates, yoga, stretching, none of it worked. And again, it's extracted directly from what was said in those same Reddit forums. So this stuff, I hope you guys are learning and getting a ton of value from this stuff. The next thing is stretching, a YouTube routine. So again, same thing here. People are mentioning the stretching that they've done. So now we can get into some of the hardest moments, right? So the data produces two distinct hard moments with roughly equal frequency intensity. Hard moment number one, the unavoidable seated journey. Hard moment number two, the moment of recognition that this is now a limitation of identity. So this is going to be stuff we really speak to, right? The specific scene in a car trip, a plane, a commute, or public transit. The person has done everything right. The stretches before, the cushion underneath them, the awareness of posture. And it goes on and on to talk about like the basically painting the picture, right? And these are going to be the things that we're trying to elevate in the story to really heighten that pain that they're going through, so it resonates with them and keeps them reading the story and engaged the entire time. Because obviously, I know in the back of your mind, if you've never done this before, you're wondering, why would someone continue to read? Well, it's this type of stuff, right? Elevating that shared pain and that shared experience. Number 4 is the shame layer. So direct language, right? It sucks because I'm only 23, and now if I'm on my feet a lot, my back hurts. I've used to be very fit now, not so much, but definitely not fat. Even when I run every day and train, my lower belly would always stick out if I completely relax. And like you mentioned, after I eat, I look prego, LMAO, right? So this is now tapping into the shame, right? So embarrassment. These are emotions that people don't want to say out loud to other people, but always feel it internally. And if we can echo that and show the mirror effect where that person feels that same shame while reading, it's really going to strike a nerve and really resonate with them further. And then there's a cross-platform tension map, right? So we're going to see that all the 21 files in the data set are from Reddit, no cross-platform. So I do give in the prompting an option to also put stuff from Amazon, Quora as well. So there's nothing more you need to do if you're only using the Reddit forums, which is totally fine. And then this is the vault of different raw language extraction. So specific things people are saying in their posts there that we can use. Some of this stuff we can use for hooks in our stories. Some of this stuff we can use for inspiration for images that we're going to eventually pair these long form copy with. So you have the report done, and now it's time to start getting into writing some good copy. So in the same chat here with Sonnet 4.6 Extended Thinking still on, I'm going to paste this very, very long prompt in, and this is going to be something I don't share on for free on YouTube. This will be something you need to get inside my online community. And I know it feels like I keep plugging the community, but honestly, guys, it's one of the hardest things that I've worked on over the last 6 months or so. And I really try to make it as valuable as possible. It's one of those things where I put my heart, blood, sweat, and tears into it for a reason, and there's no like hidden upsells. I'm not charging you $5,000 for this stuff. It's just an online community, and I want to continue to connect and network with a ton of you guys. And the way to do that is by, having a ton of value in there. So basically in this prompt, you're going to see in just a moment, I'm going to export the prompt. I'm going to give you guys a final copy as well. So if you really can't join the community, that is fine. Don't feel like you're being forced to. I don't want to shove it down your throat. So what I'll do is everything that I generate from this, I'll put in the description of this channel, and you can reverse engineer it from there, right? Like if you don't want to join, that's totally fine. I still want you to gain value from this and still be able to make a ton of money nevertheless. But basically what this prompt is going to do is just going to take everything that is just gathered, and it's going to make some copy. There's some specific prompting that's required to make this work. So I'll show you guys that in a moment, and you guys can literally transcribe this YouTube video, throw into Claude, and have it build the same system for you if you want to as well. So all we're going to do is hit enter here, and then it's going to do a couple of things. Let me move my face out of the way here and move it over to his. So we're going to go through a couple different phases. And I totally forgot to upload some information. So for Claude to get context about the actual product. So if you're wondering, okay, great, we know what the pain of these people are going through. How does that relate to the product that we're selling? I totally forgot to do this, but I should have done it right now, but it's totally fine. The AI agent knows what to do here. So remember I told you that screenshot tool, it's now going to come in handy. We're going to do a couple things. The first thing we're going to do is screenshot our website. Again, this is not mine. I'm just going to use this for the sake of the tutorial here. And if you don't have a website built when you're getting ready to create your copy, use your competitor's website or use Amazon, which I'll also show you how to do that in just a moment. So just before you do this, try to open up any tabs that are important to the product. So when we screenshot the tool, like information about the actual product matters. So I'm going to open up some of these tabs here. Stuff like the money back guarantee and all that stuff doesn't matter, but the material and design matters. Let me see if they have an FAQ at the bottom. They do. So I'm going to open up some of this stuff here because that's going to give Claude as much context and information as possible about the product so it knows how to relate it to the main mechanism that this is going to be, right? And remember, we're trying to bridge the gap. So we don't have to, depending on the product and stuff that you're dropshipping, we don't have to get into all the functionalities and features and all this stuff. We just need to give Claude as much context as possible so it can find the main selling point in driver and talk about how this is better than whatever our customers may have tried in the past as well. So when we do that, we're going to hit the full page tool here. It's going to screenshot everything, and then that is good to go. And again, we're doing a screenshot instead of just pasting a link into Claude because Claude unfortunately does not do the best job of scanning all the information on a website properly. And that's simply because a lot of websites now have blockers and stuff like that. So we'll paste that in. And then as well, I would also recommend that you go over to Amazon if your product is on Amazon. If it is, great, do the same thing. If not, then don't worry about it. Try to make sure that you pick the exact same product. If there's any conflicting information, that might be confusing to Claude. And then try to open up as much information as well. I don't think any of this stuff really matters too much, so that's more for Amazon. We'll also get a couple reviews as well, which is really, really dope. And we'll hit go full page here. And this is going to screenshot everything, take some pictures as well. You can also upload product page images as well, if need be. But that's going to screenshot all that. It's also going to screenshot some of the stuff that we don't need, but Claude has enough common sense to know what is important, so we'll throw that in there. This next one's also optional as well. There is this Amazon Reviews Exporter app as well called Amazon Reviews Exporter. And then if you want to, you can also add the reviews in. So I can go here, see customer reviews here. And then I can go and I can do download as many reviews. And we're going to just do download as many as possible. And this is a free extension, and I'm going to use this. Sometimes it doesn't download a ton, but even a few can help as well. So we're going to just do that. It's going to give us about 20 reviews, which is dope. And maybe a little bit more. Okay, cool. It's giving us more. It's going through the different stars, seeing what people are saying, see what people are not saying, and it gives you a couple of everything there. And then we can go back into Claude and throw that bad boy in there. Then once you do that, then you're good to go. So then we hit enter. And now this bad boy is going to start going to work here. And it's really amazing what you can do with proper prompting. So it's super important that you prompt this properly. That's why the prompt that I'm using is really detailed and it's really advanced for a reason. We're going to go through a couple different kind of gateways to create this copy. We're going to read through it together. And then from there, we're going to talk about creating good images to pair well with this and talk about how I like to create my images as well. So that's going to be kind of the process there. We'll talk about that. We'll load it up into the ads manager. And then what we'll start talking about at the end here is kind of some KPIs and some things that I would do and pay close attention to when doing the strategy. Okay, so let's go through this. So we're going to get a pseudonym here, which is just the identity of the report. It doesn't really matter too much, but we're going with the name Marcus here, which is, didn't mean to zoom in that much. So we got the name Marcus here. Let's slide this bad boy over so you guys can all pay attention to this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just get a full understanding of the product and how it works. So mechanism name, right? This is going to be important. The mechanism is important. So if you ever wondered, why would someone read this copy and decide to go to my product page instead of going over to Amazon? The biggest thing that we're going to do in this copy as well, especially towards the end when we introduce the product, is leverage our ability to create really compelling marketing that positions this product as a unique brand for one, but also like a specific mechanism that no other product on the market really leverages or uses, right? So you'll see that when we create the copy. So, mechanism name: double layered elastic gel core, described on the pages as a double layer honeycomb gel structure engineered to evenly distribute your body weight across thousands of flexible air columns. The key mechanism claim is that instead of pressure concentrating on the tailbone and hips, the gel core absorbs it and redistributes it. Secondary mechanism claim: it returns to its original shape after every use, unlike foam, which flattens permanently. So, right there, right, that's going to be the selling point. That's going to be the bridge, basically. How does person A go from being in back pain, having back pain, tailbone pain, all these issues, to feeling better, not having issues, being able to run, walk, whatever they want to do? Well, it's going to be this mechanism here. That is going to be the bridge, and that's what we're going to focus on in the copy. So what the product does in layman terms: a structured honeycomb gel seat cushion designed for people sitting 6 to 10 plus hours a day. It distributes body weight across thousands of flexible air columns to reduce pressure on the tailbone, hips, and lower back, while allowing airflow to prevent heat buildup. So that's another thing, right? We're going to be able to leverage those things. And I haven't seen the copy yet, but I can already assume, just from doing this enough times, we can be able to position this as, hey, look, not only does this product work because of that mechanism, but even if you try to go to Amazon, be careful, because the other ones on there might get too hot. That's why other people that may have tried gel cushions in the past, it didn't work for them because it got too hot. Ours has a specific functionality that doesn't let it heat up, so you can sit on it for as long as possible without feeling uncomfortable. But only our product does this, and only our mechanism. It only works for our specific brand. So if you do want to get the right one and don't want to waste your money trying to guess on the other ones, make sure you go to our website, right? That's basically how the overall concept will be leveraged when creating the copy, right? So obviously we're not saying those exact words, but that's kind of what it is. And then failed solution connection. So when you're dealing with these really, really big problems, most people have tried solutions in the past, right? Very rarely are you going to come across someone that just never tried to find a solution to this problem, especially if it's a deep-rooted pain that they are going through. But in saying that, we got to know what they've tried. So the product page directly addresses the foam cushion failure. Many foam cushions flatten within weeks and trap heat, causing discomfort over time, right? So basically, that's what we need to know. So transform language. I no longer feel exhausted from sitting all day. I sit comfortably for hours. Driving doesn't destroy my back anymore. My hips don't feel sore after long drives anymore. I can actually focus on work now. So these are the transformations, right? These are the things that people want. They don't care what the cushion looks like, the color of it, all that other stuff doesn't matter. They just want the end result, and that's what we need to focus on in our copy. And then this is competitor positioning. You don't have to worry too much about that, but that is kind of the thought process there. So now, once we analyze this and we don't want to change anything and it's all good, we just hit continue now. Now we're going to get into the next step here, which is some pretty dope stuff here. So phase 2, research, extraction, intake. Now I need your market intelligence into this report. Please paste that in. So it's just going to be basically this here. We're going to just hit download as a PDF. Save. Okay, I'm going to save this. And let me save this to my files here to downloads. And then give me one sec. Okay, so then you can paste that in, and it's saying it's going to need that report. If you already have the report in the previous conversation, paste all 5 now, and you just re-upload that again. We do have it in the same chat, but you could also just tell Claude as well, like just scroll back up the chat. It's right there in the chat, but we'll paste it in the PDF just so it has all that up-to-date information there, and now we can just let this do its thing. All right, so all 4 decisions are below. Confirm all 4 at once, or redirect any of them. All right, so now let's start getting to some decision making here. So decision 1 is the awareness level. There are 3 levels, right? So problem aware, feels discomfort but hasn't named it as a problem to solve. No sitting is hurting them, and then solution aware, right? Has already tried cushions, chairs, or other fixes and have been burned by this category. So their recommendation is that we go into solution aware. The Amazon review data shows that this audience has already been through at least one gel or foam cushion that went flat or failed to hold up. The Reddit data confirms they have all cycled through chairs, stretches, PT, and other interventions. Writing solution aware let us know enters through the failure of what came before, which is exactly where EverCushion's mechanism story becomes the reframe that makes everything click. Okay, perfect. So it's saying, like, based off the data and everything we gathered, people are actively trying to solve this problem already. So it just makes sense to go to solution aware. Now, you can, of course, still tell Claude if you wanted to, go into problem aware. Go after people that sit all day long and don't realize that the reason why they're dealing with that pain, yes, it's because they're sitting, but it's the type of thing that they're sitting on, right? So you could do that if you want to, but for the sake of this, I'm going to just go with it, what it recommends, because it did extract all that data. Decision 2 is tension, right? So emotional tension is my body is breaking down and I didn't see it coming. And then the second layer is tension 2. So we have 5 total tension points. What we're going to do here is that we're going to recommend, what Claude's recommending is that we focus on starting off with tension point 1 and having a secondary layer of tension 2, right? Because there was a lot of overlap between what people were saying, right? At the end of the day, humans are complex human beings. They go through different emotions, or we go through different emotions all the time. I promise I'm a human and not a robot. We go through different emotions all the time, and a lot of us can share overlapping issues. So we're going to lead with tension point 1, which is my body's breaking down and I didn't see it coming. And then the underlying thing as well that we're going to also speak to is that I've tried everything and nothing has fixed. And then the discovery frame, which is basically how in the story that we're going to write, how did we discover the problem or the solution? So the recommendation is frame A. The narrative found this through their own exhaustive research after everything else failed. The product page opens with a guarantee headline. Yep. So that makes sense. And then the hook format, right? So this is important. Your hook and your lead is very, very important. Nobody's going to actually read through the entire story, experience the transformation, and want to take action if they don't even click and start reading in the first place. So the hook and the lead is important. So we got to make sure we get this down. So they're recommending format 1, and in my trainings, I break down the different formats that are the different approaches to this storytelling approach that you can use. So it's going to just go through and give us the recommended format based off of the different options of storytelling that we have. So format 1, the mirror hook, a statement of specific shared experience. At solution aware level, the reader does not need to be provoked or questioned into engagement. They already are living this. The job of the first sentence is to name the exact private moment. So specifically that reader's brain registers recognition before the conscious filters can decide whether to keep scrolling. That sounds good to me. Excuse me, losing my voice. So we're going to say confirm all and move on. And this is the exciting thing. This is getting the part where we're ready to start balling, right? So now it's going to start architecting everything, and we're going to get some nice copy here. So now at this point, all we got to do now is read through each section, and then we can improve or change based off of what we need. So section 1 is going to be that opening hook into the lead, right? So this is important. This is the mirror moment where we want the reader to feel and understand the experience that we're trying to invoke through the story. So what are they going through, right? And pretend we're holding up a mirror. They should be, as they're reading this, feel that exact same emotion because they're living it every single day. So let's read through this together. The shift happened somewhere around mile 40. I had already repositioned 3 times, left cheek, right cheek, scooted forward, leaned back, nothing was landing. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I had the lumbar pillow. I had done the stretches that morning. I'd done the stretches that morning like I always do. And still there it was, the slow pressure building under my tailbone, spreading into my lower back. The announcement that next 2 hours were going to belong to my back, not to me. I used to drive 4 hours without thinking about it. Now I was calculating how soon I could pull over. Doing the math on whether to exit ahead was worth stopping at just to stand in the parking lot for 3 minutes and wait for my body to reorganize. My wife was watching something on her phone. I was managing my spine. That is when it finally hit me that something structural was wrong. Not with my posture, not with my routine, with what I was sitting on. I just didn't know it yet. Boom. All right. So that is the opening hook and lead type. At any given point, guys, you're always welcome to change or adjust as you see fit. I always like to just read through this and try to put myself in the perspective of the person going through this. So clearly they're talking about a moment where they were driving and, you know, the wife was just on her phone and he was just going through some pain, right? So remember, this is written from the perspective of a man because remember the identity was Marcus. So these are things that are always interchangeable. You can change this. You can say, hey, Claude, I want this to be written from the perspective of a woman. It's very simple to approve and prompt differently. But for the sake of this, I'm going to go with that and say, yeah, let's go. Let's give it a go. So that's nice. So we're going to get into the next point, and each section will be highlighted so you'll know what you're supposed to be working on. So that opening mirror is really good. And again, the idea here is for it to be an opening story. So we're not like having to hard sell and do anything too wacky or crazy. All right. So that's off to a good start. All right. So section 2, the weight of it, right? So now we're going to really start to hamper down, and you can always hit the drop down here and read up on, you know, a little bit of the information that we're trying to do. So that's really cool how that works there. But so let's get into this next section here. The chair came first. I read every review, watched every comparison video, found that one that supposedly fixed everything for everyone, spent that kind of money that made me embarrassed to mention it out loud. 3 weeks in, my lower back was still talking to me by 2 p.m. Then came the stretches, the hip flexor routines, a YouTube psycho who seemed to understand exactly that I was going through. I did the cat cows. I set timers. I got up every hour like the internet told me to. The relief was temporary. It always is. I tried standing I tried a standing desk. My back still hurt, just in different positions. I tried a lumbar pillow wedged under my chair. I tried the gel cushion guy in a forum swore by, the one that went completely flat inside a week. I was not being careless. I was not skipping steps. I tried more things than most people knew existed, but there's a specific kind of tire that comes from trying hard and not getting anywhere. It's not frustrated exactly. It lands quieter than that. It stands to feel like information, like the problem is telling you something permanent about yourself. I started doing math in my head. How many more years of this job? What it would feel like at 50, whether that Italy trip we had been talking about for 3 years was something I could actually manage now. I didn't want to believe it was that serious, but I was running out of reasons to give otherwise. So remember, the main tension point is I've tried everything, and then the second tension point was what would I look like, or like how will this continue to actually? It's right here. I don't even have to guess. It's tension point 3, right? Tension point 2, I've tried everything and nothing has been fixed. Sorry, that's tension point 2. And tension point 1 is my body's breaking down and I didn't see it coming. So far, we're off to a good start, right? We're really elevating that pain and that issue the person's going through. And we're even starting to echo some of the things that they probably are, thinking, right? That trip to Italy, what would my life look like? I've tried all these different things. So right now, this is off to a good start. Now, I always tell people, and I mentioned already in this training, the AI will do about 80% of the work. You still need to have inputs and changes. In this tutorial here, I'm not going to do too many different changes unless I see something really glaring, but it's on you to make sure you read the copy. Make sure you just read smooth, right? It should feel like a human wrote it. It shouldn't feel too robotic. And I've really prompted my scripts to specifically avoid that. But every now and again, the AI slips up. So now we're getting into the aha moment. This is the moment where the user or the reader realized why they were feeling the issues that they're feeling. Why nothing else was working. So I was reading something late one night, the kind of reading you do when you stop expecting to find an answer but cannot stop looking. And I came across one sentence that reframed everything. It said that all the pressure from your body weight while sitting gets concentrated into roughly 2 small contact points, the tailbone and the edges of your hips. Whatever you are sitting on either spreads that pressure out or forces it into those points. That is it. That is the whole problem. Every solution I tried was addressing what was happening in my muscles, in my posture, in my spine. None of it was addressing what was happening at the surface where my body actually made contact with the seat. The foam cushion I bought compressed flat within days. It felt soft for a week, and then I was sitting on slightly padded version of original problem. The cheap gel cushion collapsed the same way. The cells looked impressive in the photos, but under actual body weight, they folded in on each other and gave me nothing. What I had not understood is that the material has to maintain its structure under sustained pressure. It has to actively redistribute the weight instead of it just absorbing momentarily and collapsing. It has to do that not just the first day, but the 100th day. Foam cannot do that. Single layer gel cannot do that. The physics simply do not work for that way. I had not been choosing wrong. I had been choosing from a category that was never built to solve the actual problem. So before we even introduce a product, we want to open up the hook, get the mirror moment going. We want to really lean into that pain, and then we want to get into this section here that really helps the reader understand why nothing was working, why everything you were doing wasn't working before. And now we've discovered and understood why, okay, boom, I understand what the problem was, and now I understand what the fix is, but not how to fix it. They now know what to fix, but how to properly fix it, that's where we start getting into the product. All right, so now we hit confirm. And then we're going to do our thing here. And then boom. So that's the discovery. Now we're going to get into section 4, right? So section 4 is broken down to 4A and then 4B. So now we're going to bridge the gap, and then section 4B will actually introduce the product in detail. So I went looking specifically for that. Something engineered to hold its structure, not soft, not comfortable in the brochure, and flat in a week. Actually built to redistribute pressure across the whole surface and stay that way. Most of what I found was the same category dressed up in different packaging. Gel cushions that made the same claims, memory foam that used different words to describe the same material that would compress that way. Then I found EverCushion. What stopped me was not the marketing, it was a specific language about how it was a built double layer honeycomb structure, thousands of individual columns that flex under weight and return to the shape after. Not one layer of gel that takes your weight and transfers it straight down, 2 layers that pass the load between them and spread it sideways across the surface. That is different mechanical proposition entirely. I sat with the page open for probably 10 minutes, reading it again, checking whether they were saying what I thought they were saying. And then I ordered it. So here's the thing, right? Why would someone buy from me, a dropshipper on Facebook, and not on Amazon? This is why, right? So it's this type of messaging that allows us to do that, right? Or specific highlight. Everything else has all these different, promises that promise the same thing, but they don't work because they functionally are not the same as what this thing that we're selling is. And that is the difference, right? Now, personally, one of the things that I've been playing around with is not necessarily name dropping my brand in the actual copy, because what can happen sometimes is that people go through and Google the brand name, and then you lose a little bit of traction there. Or sometimes, you'll see those same people come back around afterwards if you have proper SEO on your Shopify store. So because I'm trying to get them to take action and continuously leave an open loop where they're curious as to see where they can specifically get it from, sometimes what I would do is say, hey, then I found this one brand that was selling this specific cushion that does everything that it's supposed to do, basically. So in other words, I wouldn't name drop. I would say, hey, in the story, I would say something like, I would say this, right? So something you could do, you could leave the brand name. That's fine. That way, when people are ready to buy, they can say, oh, Evercushion, that's the brand I should go after. No, nobody else. So it really comes down to split testing and see what works for you. But an alternative to this could be like, I don't want to say, okay, we copy that line and say, I want to keep an open loop so the reader is curious and wants to know the exact brand. So can we, something else that still talks about the product, but doesn't really name drop, so the user is still curious and wants to continue to read and eventually wants to know the specific brand. Let's just leave it at that, actually. So I'll say, I don't want to say, then I found Evercushion. I want to keep an open loop so the reader is curious and wants to know the exact brand. So can we say something else that still talks about the product but doesn't really name drop, so the user is still curious and wants to continue to read? We'll see how this output gets us. And the idea, like I mentioned again, is just to build curiosity and keep the open loop going. We don't want to just give them, oh, it's evergreen, and then maybe they'll drop off and maybe go Google something. So sometimes it can work in your favor, sometimes it can't. So let's see what it updated to. Then I found something that stopped me, not because of the marketing, because of the specific language about how it was built. A double layer honeycomb structure, thousands of individual columns that flex under weight and return to the shape after. Not one layer of gel that takes your weight and transfers it straight down. Two layers that pass the load between them and spread it sideways across. That is a different mechanical proposition entirely. I sat with the page open for probably 10 minutes, reading again, checking whether they were saying what I thought they were saying. So basically, instead of name dropping, it just goes straight into it. I found something that stopped me, right? And it keeps that open loop. So you can choose to go between the original one or the new one. You can play with it a little bit more if you want to. But for now, I think that's good. So we'll approve and continue to go. So now we're getting into 4B, I believe. Yep, so crafting 4B. And you can see each section has about 120 to 160 words. And we're trying to properly space them out so they're equal. Sometimes they go a little bit over that, which is fine. All right, so it arrived 2 days later. I put in my office chair and sat down and waited for the thing that I always wait for, the pressure under my tailbone that starts small and builds. It didn't come. Not right away, which happens with everything new. I mean, it didn't come at all. I worked through the morning and realized around noon that I had not shifted position once. Not because I was being disciplined about it, because there was nothing promoting me to move or prompting me to move. The real test came the following weekend. The drive we had been putting off, 3 hours each way to see my in-laws. I'd been dreading it for 2 weeks. I put the cushion on my seat, got in, and drove. Around the 90-minute mark, my wife said something that I answered and then realized I had not thought about back once since we left. I had been just driving, just talking, just being in the car the way I used to be before any of that started. It was such a small thing, it felt enormous. So now this is basically talking about that first experience, and we don't want to oversell the product, right? We don't want to say, oh, all my problems are solved, blah, 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 because then the reader's sales wall will go up. We want to gradually talk about the experience and talk about that transformation. Well, we actually haven't gotten to the full transformation yet, but we're started to gradually talk about that first experience. So that way we can ease them into that transformation. So now we're going to hit approve. And this is gonna be beautiful, right? So now we're gonna get into that transformation. This is where we really stamp it, right? Okay, boom, we got the product. The product does the thing that we believe solves a problem that we couldn't have solved before. And now we got through that first experience, but now what's the actual transformation? I want to be careful about how I describe what I changed because I'm not someone who exaggerates these things, right? And again, this is to lower that sales wall. We don't want to feel like we're shoving this down someone's throat. It was not drastic reversal. It was quieter than that. It was slow accumulation of days where the thing I've been bracing for simply did not arrive. So in 2026, consumers are being sold to things all the time, and a lot of times they're let down, right? So people buy things all the time, and it's always disappointing, especially these types of people that we're talking to. So we don't want to make this false promise, all right? And that's the ethical way of marketing, where we don't want to make it seem like overnight everything's changed and we just, all our problems are solved. We want to let it be realistic, and believe it or not, this is actually more likely to get buyers because we're not like overselling the thing, because everything else that they bought that failed was oversold to them. So that's why we're going to be able to leverage that. I stopped watching the clock at my desk. That sounds small. For 2 years, I've been tracking the hours in my body before I tracked them on screen. 10 a.m., I already known what kind of noon I was going to have. The internal forecast just stopped running. I ordered a second one for the car, then a third one for the couch, which sounds excessive until you understand that 2 years of managing your position in every room of your house actually feels like. I was looking for comfort. That was all I ever wanted. The Italy trip was back on the calendar. I did not think about pulling over anymore. I did not calculate distances in units of pain tolerance. I sat down at my desk in the morning and I worked. I get in the car and I drive. I have dinner with my wife and I stayed at the table for the whole meal. I no longer feel exhausted from sitting all day. I did not think I would be able to write the sentence. I generally did not think that was still available to me. Boom. It turns out the problem was never me. Boom. So hopefully you guys are getting some value. And if you're still watching an hour and 16 minutes in, make sure you like and subscribe because, there's no one else doing it like this on YouTube, at least not to my knowledge. So this is pretty detailed. You're literally seeing real good copy written in real time. And shout out to Evercushion. Hit me up if you want me to write some copy for you. I can slide this over to you. So the proof beat, right? So let's validate that this actually worked, right? So we got into the transformation, but real transformations can be perceived from other people's perspective, right? So about a month in, my wife said something I wasn't expecting. We're in the kitchen after dinner and she looked at me and asked what I had done differently. Not because of cushion specifically, just didn't know enough about the specifics to ask that. She said I was moving differently, less careful, less like I was making small adjustments to everything. I didn't know what to say, so I told her about the drive, the 3 hours each way that I had dreaded for weeks and then forgotten to dread while I was in the middle of it. She was quiet for a second, then she said she had noticed I wasn't doing the same thing. I was doing the thing anymore. I asked what thing. She said the thing where I stand up from the couch and wait, the 2 or 3 seconds where I used to just stand there before I could actually start walking. She said she didn't realize I had stopped until that moment. Neither had I. The people who live with us notice the things we stop doing before we do. Yeah, so that's spot on, right? We're trying to showcase, hey, look, this transformation is so great that other people started to realize that it's that those small transformations is what people want, right? They want to feel different, but they also want to seem different, right? Especially with this type of product. So now we're going to get into wrapping up here with the soft CTA. I'll say this. I had searched for cushions before dozens of times over 2 years. What comes up is always the same category. Foam in different densities, single layer gel in different colors, products that compete price and thickness and nothing else. This one never surfaced in any of these searches because it was not competing on those terms. It's built around a different premise entirely. And that premise does not fit neatly into the same shelf as everything else I had already tried and set aside. I'm not telling you it will do for you. I'm not telling you it will do for you what it did for me. I'm just telling you what it did for me. I don't like that sentence. I'm gonna tell Claude, can we reword this? It's a little choppy and not easy to read. Before I enter that, let me just read everything else. If you're somewhere in the middle of what I just described earlier, the link is below. It is the same page I set with for 10 minutes before I order. It's worth 10 minutes, right? So because in the earlier stages of this copy, I elected not to say the specific brand name, people are now forced to click that product button, that buy now button, to now see exactly the same page that I was using. Understood. Here are the 3 options. What it did for me is what I asked to. This is all I'm offering you. I can only tell you what happened to me. I will let you decide what to do with it. I'm not making you a promise. I was just telling you a true thing that happened to a person. Okay, so we're going to go with option B here because it's short and easy to understand. And then it's going to reread that section. And that way it flows easier. And as you're reading this, if it feels confusing to you at all, like a sentence or two sounds confusing, there's a good chance that it's probably going to be confusing to the person reading this, right? I think the average person reads at a 5th grade reading level. So try to make sure it's all flow and congruent. So we'll hit approve here. And then we're going to get some, we're going to get the finalized output here that we can copy. And that's going to be really good because now we put together some really good copy. And now we're going to create 4 variations of this copy. And we're going to load that into Claude. We're going to create 5 total, into Ads Manager. We're going to create 5 images to go to each long form copy. And then from there, we can launch this up into Facebook. So yeah, that's what you're going to do. And then we'll talk and wrap up this tutorial with some metrics and some things to look forward to and some testing strategies that I would recommend. All right. So this is beautiful. I'm really happy with how this came out, man. This is nice. All right, so Claude gives you this final output that's clean that you can output into your Ads Manager. What we're going to do is I'm going to paste this other prompt that I have as well that creates 4 unique variations. So these are going to be basically spoken to in 4 different angles per se. These are more so angles and variations. So what we'll do in the copy of these different angles is we're going to be still selling the same product and speaking to similar pains and issues, but we're going to be telling it from different story perspectives, right? So this person was driving to their their parents-in-law or whatever, and that story was elevated through the driving and the different examples of them standing up for 1 to 2 minutes before walking. So we're going to be changing this and creating different arcs that will basically be creating different angles. So that way, when we launch our ads, we basically have 5 at-bats to speak to people in the market, and whichever story resonates the most, we can build on that in our next set of ads that we launch. So this is just giving you creative diversity to speak to the same person, but just in different ways and different perspectives. Because again, humans are complex. Certain experiences and shared pains and problems and fears is elevated through different stories and stuff like that. So the 4 other arcs or angles are basically the following. So there's the exhausted surrender. Basically, the mechanism framing is framed as explanation the narrator found when they had stopped looking. And then the agitation lead is going to be this: leads with the failed solution that cost the most time, the one they stuck with the longest before they finally stopped. The self-blamer, the lead agitation is going to be failed solution with the hardest, they worked hardest at, the one that they gave everything to. The emotional load is not the solution, failed. It's what it is that when it failed, they concluded they were the problem. And then there's mechanism framing for this is the mechanisms framed as the evidence that it was never their fault, not a consolidation, a structural explanation. There's the quietly angry one. So the agitation lead. So this is going to be the one that leads with failed solution that made the biggest promise and delivered the least. The emotional load is the specific betrayal or expectation, and the mechanism framing. The mechanism is framed as a thing nobody in the industry mentions because acknowledging it would undermine everything else sold. And then the reluctant believer, right? So this is going to be leads with failed solution that hurt the most emotionally, not necessarily the most expensive one, but the one that they had the most hope for. The mechanism is framed as a thing the narrator almost dismissed. All right, so these are going to be the 4 that we're going to create here and have 5 in total. Okay, so basically what's going to happen now, it's going to be a little bit of a faster process, but now Claude's going to just output the entire story based off of each arc. It's going to tell you the total amount of words, break down each section here. And you can read through this, and I would validate and verify that each section is up to par. You're going to see that the framing, the structure is going to be a little bit different. In the hook, right, I stopped doing these stretches on a Tuesday, right? So each story we're going to generate, you want to have an individual new image that relates to the actual copy, and we'll talk about this in a moment here. And I guess now actually would be a good time to talk about this. How do we create good images that pair well with these stories? Well, the biggest thing to understand is that we want to create images that feel like they're capturing a moment in time that the user is experiencing, and we want it to be scroll stopping. But that's basically what the image does, right? It stops the scroll, but the story is what actually does the selling. So with a particular prompt I'm using, it even gives you an image concept that it recommends based off the story. So for this example, a kitchen table after dinner, plate still on it, a half empty wine glass, right? So that's what it recommends. And you can read through the story yourself and go through and come up with some image concepts you think are good. I will say the more compelling and the more scroll stopping your images, the more likely people are to read, click, and engage, and then also potentially buy as well. So while this is generating, again, I would actually recommend you read through these stories and make sure they're good. But if you are reading through them and they're good, just keep hitting approve until all 4 are generated. So we'll have a total of 5 stories, and we're going to generate 5 unique images to go with each story. So I have a couple different ways. So my prompts will give you recommended images that you can use. I also use something called like a snapshot story prompt that I use. I throw it in ChatGPT, and it basically allows me to plug in the target audience and the prompt that they're going through, and it generates 20 different native ad concepts that I use. This is another resource inside my online community. It generates the concepts, and then I could just simply prompt ChatGPT to give me the script to throw it into Higgsfield. And I don't even care who you are, what you do. If you're not using Higgsfield to generate images, you're behind the 8 ball. There's other ways and strategies you can generate images, but Higgsfield specifically works because it just has all the models: Nano Banana, ChatGPT, Higgsfield Soul. Like, you can generate just about pretty much anything. WAN 2.2, all the different ones that you can possibly think of is all under one membership under Higgsfield. So why wouldn't you use it? So we can look through some of these concepts here, and then obviously in relation to the story, you want to find a piece of that customer's journey, right? If someone's dealing with back pain, knee pain because they sit all day long, what are some moments throughout their day-to-day that they are experiencing that we can find and pinpoint that specific pain and inflection point? Because again, we want this to be something that stops the scroll in the middle of the Facebook feed, but specifically resonates with them. We don't want just anyone stopping the scroll. If that was the case, we'd just throw up a ton of nonsense clickbaity images. We want specific people stopping the scroll, and it has to be the people that resonate with that pain and that issue the most. So we have a candid selfie photo of a man sitting at a desk mid-work, slightly hunched over. Okay, that sounds good. So what I can do, right, so we have a ton of candid photos. So what I'll do is I'll say turn concepts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 into scripts for Higgsfield. And it's going to do that for me. It's going to turn these scripts, and I could just paste them into Higgsfield, and it's going to generate some of the most realistic photos that you could possibly think of. So this is Higgsfield. I really cannot wait to get a affiliate code with Higgsfield, because I use this tool all the time. I rave about it. Everyone should be using it. But right now, I don't have an affiliate partnership with them. So feel free to sign up with this on your own. Get their pro plan. I use their ultimate plan. I think it was like $49 a month. And I use this to generate some of the most realistic images you could possibly ever think of. Like, these are all fake people. This is crazy. So what I would literally do is go into ChatGPT. So I have my first prompt here, and because we're generated candid images, I actually like using Higgsfield 2.0 or Higgsfield, the original one. But if you use Higgsfield 2.0, you'll get some really realistic photos. All these ones that I generated is from 2.0, but I like to kind of test. And I just generated 4. I did not mean to do that. So I want to lower my batch size down to 2. I don't need 4 variations of the same image. So I'll do Higgsfield 2.0. And sometimes I also like mess around with Higgsfield Soul, and I'll do their realistic model here. That's also really good too. And I'll do 2 of those. I could do the unlim version, which will allow me to do that. So I'll do unlimited and do that twice, and then I'll let that generate some images for me. I'll go back into Claude as well. And again, you should be reading these stories that will vary depending in size and length. But again, for this tutorial, I'm not going to read this. You guys can read this on your own and go through that. So we're going to let that keep going. And then we should be able to get, in a few moments here, some images. I'll go back to ChatGPT here, and we'll start looking at some of these other ones. And the goal here, guys, is try to have some creative diversity, right? You don't want the same exact image over and over again, but just in slightly different ways. So I believe both of these are like just close-ups of chairs and stuff like that. I might look to see if we can get some better or some different image concepts, so that way we're not like having to harp on the same point. So this one is a candid selfie of a man, his late 20s to mid 30s, sitting in the driver's seat of a car during daytime, stuck in traffic. Couch workout, bad posture, candid lifestyle photo of a modern living. All right, so what we can always do is just prompt it and say, I want these concepts to be more scroll stopping. We need to elevate the realistic pain that our target audience may be going through in their journey with this problem. Also, try to keep the models, the men around the ages of 30 to 55. So we want to, more older men that, resonates with them. If it's a bunch of 20 to 20-year-old looking men, they're probably not going to be the ones reading this. So they're not going to be able to see themselves in that image for the images that we generate of a person actually sitting there. Candid selfie, opposite. Okay, so again, another candid selfie, which this prompt is designed to be candid selfie. Years of sitting, crush cushion, close up. Okay, so this could just be a cushion. So go to Nana Banana. Okay, so here we go. Here's some images here of some chairs and stuff like that. Yeah, you see how like Shakespeare's soul when it comes to generating people is good, but sometimes like the images itself can just be a little wonky. So we'll use I'll be using Higgsfield like the original one. I still like the Higgsfield so realistic. So let's just do that. Boom, we'll generate that twice. Let's also go back to Claude and look at the image concepts it gave us there. So for the arc 1 here, it recommends that we do where is it? Image concept, a kitchen table. Okay, so let's generate this and let's see how that looks here. Boom. Generate it twice. We can change the model to Nana Banana. I know a lot of people love using Nana Banana. I think Nana Banana, even on the Pro model, still the images still look like the color scheme looks so saturated to me still. And I guess with proper prompting, you can avoid that. But for me personally, I love Higgsfield so because the image looks realistic, the lighting, the color, it looks like it was taken from an iPhone. And also, by the way, we're always doing these in 1x1 formats, right? So we want to make sure the image is in a 1x1 format there. All right, so we'll do that. What other ones will it make sense here? So obviously, logically speaking, guys, you would want to pair up the images that make the most sense with the story. So if the image is talking about someone driving all day long and they have back pain and whatnot, you don't want, it would make sense to have an image of something related to a car seat or something like that. But remember, the image is only designed to stop the scroll. So try to pick an image that's compelling and interesting. Ultimately speaking, that's what matters, right? And you see it like, this is the thing with Nana Banana. Like, this just doesn't look real to me. It doesn't look native to me. So that's why I stick to using, Higgsfield there personally. So yeah, let's keep the ball rolling. I didn't mean to do Soul. I want to do, or 2.0 Soul. I meant to do regular Soul. So let's do that. Oh, I have too many concurrent things going on. Yeah, so let's let these kind of generate here. And I kind of just throw up a ton of prompts in and then pick my images based off of that. And I'll reread the stories and see which images best align with what story that I'm generating. So we'll give this a moment here and then we'll come back and take a look at the images and kind of skim through the copy to see which image makes sense to go with each copy. Something as well I like to do is I prompt ChatGPT to say stuff like the images should still feel natural, like someone took it of themselves or of them, and it should not feel candid or stock. Raw selfie, boom, 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 boom. Okay, someone at their desk. His body's turned, shoulders shrug, shows mild frustration. We do have one image here that I like. This one's not too bad. But that can be a little wonky. These, I'm not liking any of these, man. None of these look good. So we'll try to keep playing around with it. And this can sometimes be really easy. I've done this where all 5 images I generate are just perfect, spot on, and they're good to go. And other times it's not as easy, right? When you're trying to convey a certain type of pain or problem, sometimes it can't be as easy. So you're gonna have to mess around with it a little bit. But this seat stuff is, I think, solid. Like this seat one is one for sure, like a beat up chair with a flat cushion. I think that's good here. And we'll see what these other ones generate for us. I'll be back once we get a couple more generations going. All right, so through messing around a little bit, I think I've gotten the 5 images based off the story and everything and the general pain that is consistent throughout the different stories. So we have images that really relate to that. So I'll elect to use this one here where there's the 2 pillows kind of propping up on the chair with the laptop in the background here. As you can see, looks realistic, like there's work being done. I'll use this one here, same thing, just a basic desk, chair, office scenario. We'll use this one here where someone's taking a realistic photo of them like favoring their knee and then as they're sitting down in a chair. I think it's really good. There were some other ones that it generated that I wasn't the biggest fan of. This one I do like, kind of a big dent in the chair, again imposing someone that was sitting down. And then there were some other ones. Wasn't a big fan of this one. I'm gonna try. I'm actually not gonna launch this, but I would, if I were you, I would try something like this that is like showcasing someone in that physical pain. That these are tend to be really good scroll stopping images as well. And I think that would do it, right? Is that all five, right? I think that's all five. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So, back in the Claude here, I had to generate all 5 reports. I didn't really use some of the recommendations. The recommendations that it provides aren't always the best. So that's where it's gonna, you're gonna need a little bit of brain power there to kind of figure it out on your own. So we have all the stories here and everything. And then it tells you a variation arc summary based off of everything that is different between the different stories. So we have our images, we have our long form copy. We're assuming that we already have our website and everything built. So all is left is to launch this bad boy up into Ads Manager. All right, so all the heavy lifting is done. This next part is really, really straightforward. So we're gonna go to create here. We're gonna hit sales campaign and hit continue. So if you're on a brand new ad account, I'd highly recommend you warm up your account by just creating a page. So let's actually talk about that for a moment. I recommend you create a blog style page, a universal blog style page, right? So historically speaking, we've seen people run natives. I personally even run natives from a page that is projected to look like an actual person, right? We'll do like Sarah Michaels, and will be a picture of AI generated avatar that looks realistic. And that way, when it displays in the feed, it showcases a realistic looking person as if they posted it to the Facebook feed. The thing that I've been starting to see, and it's happened to other community members and people that I know, those accounts are actually getting banned now. So basically, Facebook is not a big fan of you impersonating a realistic person. And if they catch you with the AI systems, they can potentially flag and ban your page. Now, you might not lose your entire ad account and everything. You might just have your page get banned, which is obviously an inconvenience, and that could stop your ads and put it out of learning. So we don't want that to happen. I still have been testing with it every now and again, and it's been fine for me, but I do know that people are getting banned. So the best rule of thumb here is to just make a Facebook page as if it was a blog style page. So you could do something like Hair Care Insider or Best Dental Tips, or you could just chat GPT, right? Like, and let it go to chat GPT and let it say something like, and I wouldn't overthink this, right? The name of the page does not matter. You don't have to fill out the page with a ton of information and value, but I recommend warming up the page if it's a brand new ad account, and you would just run a $5 page engagement campaign where people like and engage on the page based off of a picture you upload. It could just be a picture of anything, a cat, a dog, butterflies, whatever's, cute, nice photo that would get some likes and engagement. So let's just say I'm selling different orthopedic solutions on Facebook, and I need a blog style page name that is universal despite what I'm selling. So obviously, if you're selling a product and you have it's a hair growth serum, you could go with Hair Care Insider. It's actually going to be the mock page that I use just for this tutorial. But I recommend just creating, just like you would get an evergreen domain name for your Shopify store. You should do the same thing with your page. That way, when you test new products, you don't have to keep changing the page name. You could just keep using the same exact season page. So you have the Daily Relief Journal, the Comfort Report, Pain and Posture Lab. So if you're selling anything within that niche of orthopedic solutions or anything like that improves someone's life, you can go with something evergreen. That's just my latest up-to-date advice here in 2026. In the past, I've talked about, use a name like I mentioned, Sarah Michaels or John, Wick or whatever. But Facebook is apparently cracking down on that. As far as these blog style pages, I've not seen anyone have an issue. And even the personal pages, I personally haven't had an issue. I've seen other people that I know hasn't had an issue. I think at like large scale, depending on what type of ads you're running, that's when the AI system could flag you. But under I don't know, $10,000 a day in ad spend, you're not really seeing many people have those types of issues. But to be safe and ultimately safe and never run into that issue down the line, I recommend just going with a universal blog style page name. You don't have to fluff out the page with a ton of information. Just have a universal, nice looking photo. It could be of, I don't know, a logo or something. Don't overthink it. And so that should be good there. So boom, we're going to go here, create that sales campaign, and I'm going to just name this first campaign here. We're doing the gel cushion. So normally I like to name what the product I'm selling, gel cushion here. And then I'm going to put the slash. We're going to do this to a product page. And then we're going to just call this batch 1. if you want to. Okay. So then from there, this is important. Newer ad accounts, you're only going to be limited to $50 a day in spend. I'd highly recommend you warm up your account, and you're probably going to have to spend $50 a day for about a week or so with no failed payments, no ad restrictions for Facebook to naturally increase your budget over time. And eventually, as you spend more money with no failed payments and no restricted ads, Facebook will keep allowing you to spend more each day. But naturally speaking, where you want to spend money is about $100 a day for every new test that you do. You don't have to do 150, even if you can. I would still recommend just doing 100 because it's not going to really make a difference anyway. All right, so $100 a day. CBO, we always do campaign budget optimization. That allows us to, in the future, add new ad sets and let them split test against each other and let Facebook allocate the spend based off the ad set it believes it's going to perform the best. If we do ABO, we're always putting the budget on the ad set level. And although we can have all those ad sets in the same campaign, that ad set is gonna get its spend regardless if it's doing well or not. So that's the important thing there to be mindful of when it comes to CBO. Everything else here you can ignore and move on. Next is the ad set name. So for this ad set name, this is where we're going to really, in this case, name our avatar or our attention point. So because we're doing a Reddit story, we're going to say the main focus was tension point 1, and that's what we're going to go after. You're going to pick a pixel, and when you create a new pixel, if you create a new pixel, make sure your pixel's connected and on your store. And if you create a new pixel and you go to purchase campaign, which you should always set the conversion event to purchase. If you hit purchase and you get a little message underneath that says, hey, we have no records of any purchases on this pixel, we recommend you go to like add to carts or whatnot. Always say screw off Facebook and just go with purchase, even if it's a brand new pixel and you've never gotten purchases before. And I get this question all the time, and I'm here to tell you it does not make sense to optimize for add to carts or initiate checkouts, because then Facebook is going to train your pixel to only get those people. So when you're trying to now pivot to get purchases, it's not going to work, right? So someone can add to cart and initiate checkout, but that doesn't mean they're going to buy. You want to get the people that are going to buy. So even on a brand new pixel on day one, you want Facebook optimizing for purchases, so it continuously gets stronger at that over time. So even on a brand new pixels, start with purchase. All right, all this other stuff you can leave as such. Always schedule your ads the next day at midnight. So obviously schedule it for the country you're going to be advertising in. So if you live in Europe or Australia or in Singapore, but you're advertising in the US, the general rule of thumb is to set your ads up at 12 a.m. Eastern in the United States. So figure out that time difference and schedule your ads that day or at that point in time. You want to do that because you want the ads to run from 12 a.m. midnight to 12 p.m. and give it that entire 24-hour window to figure out what time throughout the day is your customers most likely to be on. Something you have to understand with scheduling is that there's an auction always going on Facebook. So different people are entering and leaving that auction and bidding against who can get the better customer. So if you give Facebook the full 24 hours, it can find certain times throughout that day where there might be sales. A lot of the times, I see that, especially in newer campaigns, I get sales early in the morning or late at night. That's when it's, one, a lot of people are on their phones ready to buy. And then two, that's also when the auction's a little less aggressive as well, because most people, they don't have their ads turned on, or most of their budgets are almost spent out at that time of the day. So don't overcomplicate this. Schedule this. If you're advertising in the US, schedule this at 12 a.m. Eastern time. Same thing in Australia. If you're advertising in Australia, you can schedule it 12 a.m. in the local time zone that you're advertising to. All right. Next up, we're always going to be targeting one country. We can even go back here and do US. I wouldn't even do that. I'd, leave my campaigns based off the country. So if I'm doing the UK, I'd create a separate campaign for that. But I'd keep my countries in separate campaigns. So we're going to advertise to the US and leave all this as automatic targeting. We're not going to adjust anything here. We're not going to change the placements. We're not going to change the age. We're not going to change the region. We're going to let Facebook figure out the best placement. And 99.9% of the times, they're automatically going to display these onto Facebook for you. There's some nuanced cases where you'll see it get a little spend on Instagram or Audience Network. It's fine. Like, it's going to optimize to Facebook anyway. So just let it do its thing, and you're good to go. All right. So that's the first two steps there, campaign and ad set. All right, so now we're at the ad level. This is where we're going to input our ads. And to start off this campaign, we're going to do one campaign, one ad set, and 5 ads under this ad set. Each ad will be its own individual ad and story with its own image. So this is going to be ad 1. Okay, so that's going to just be that. And that's going to be the original ad here. So as you can see here for the Facebook page, I'm just going with Hair Care Insider. Now, obviously, if I were to really launch this product, it wouldn't make sense to have a page called Haircare Insider selling a gel cushion. Ultimately speaking, it's not the most important thing, but just for the sake of this tutorial, that is the page I'm going with. Recommend you go with the blog style page yourself. All right, so make sure you have your settings set like this. You don't need to have an Instagram page. Facebook will just use the page and display it on Instagram if it needs to, but it's going to spend most of its spend on Facebook anyway. So make sure you have create ad, you have manual upload, and you have single image or video. You can hit this drop down here. It's going to give you some other options, but none of that matters. Single image or video, and uncheck multi-advertisers. All right, so from that point on, what we're going to do here, make sure all that's good. We're going to paste our website in. So again, this is important that you paste the product page. So there's a home page here, right? We don't want to paste this page in. We want to paste the product page. We want to have less steps for that customer to make a buying decision. So we're going to copy this and then just paste it in just like that. Okay. And now we just got to upload our image and our long form copy. So to do that, under add creative, hit setup creative, hit image. So from here, you're going to upload the image, right? So we're going to go with, for this first story here, the original story you created, you would want to be more meticulous about which image you assign with which copy. So just make sure you are being mindful of that. So this is the image we're going to go with, copy. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to pick one of the 5. They're all kind of general anyway, so I'm going to just pick one of them and go with that. You would not do that though. You would look at the copy and make sure you pick an image that aligns with that. So we're going to go with this first one here. Okay, and then we're going to go over to Ads Manager. We're going to drop this bad boy in here. Remember, we ultimately want these to be 1-by-1 photos. Okay, cool. So we'll hit next here, creative setup. All this stuff. So Facebook's going to have a lot of these automatic features and stuff turned on. You're going to want to turn all this stuff off. So website summaries off, promotions off, promo codes off, branding off, site links off, website highlights off. All this highlighting stuff turn off. Catalog. If you had a catalog, make sure you unconnect the catalog. Just hit the drop down, hit the back arrow and say not connected. Okay, so uncheck everything. Everything should be zeros here. We don't want any of this stuff because it's supposed to enhance the performance, but it never does. So hit next, crop, leave everything original, recommended. Okay, so for primary text, this is where we're going to go in and copy the text from Claude and paste it into the Ads Manager. So do not copy the text from Claude, put into Google Document, and then put it back into Facebook. And let me show you why you don't want to do that. So you have 5 pieces of long form copy. So I get it. You would want to probably organize these, right? So you would maybe copy it from Claude, paste it on a Google document, and when you're ready to launch the ads, you would load it back into the ads, right? So to do that, you would copy from the document and go in here and hit in primary text. The problem though is that it bunches up all the text and makes it look really, really ugly. And I do not like that. And it's harder for the reader to also read it. So what I would recommend you do is copy it directly from Claude. So you see this copy button at the end of the entire story. Copy it directly from Claude like this, then go into Facebook Ads Manager under primary text, paste it in, and you see how it's automatically spaced out for you. That is what you want. And just double check, because sometimes Claude, you'll see in the next set of stories we paste in, Claude will pull out some extra text and stuff like that, like the recommendation, or we just finalized the prompt for you. Hopefully you like it. We don't want that in the story, obviously. So just double check, make sure it's good. And something that's optional, depending on the story and how you wrote it, right here, if you're somewhere in the middle of what I was describing earlier, the link is below. It's the same page I sat for 10 minutes. It's worth the 10 minutes. You can put the link of your website here. It's optional, but it doesn't inherently hurt. So you can paste that in there, and then I would throw like an emoji in as well. So if you're on MacBook, this is easy, but if you're not you're on PC like me, you could go to Emojipedia. You just type in like finger pointing, and then grab this arrow here, boom. And then go back into that and then put that in front of that. And then there you go. Space that out nicely like that. And there you go. We're not done though. We're going to also want to put something for the headline here. For the headline, there's a couple different ways you can do a headline. The whole goal of the headline is to help people, entice them to read. So a lot of times I'll say, read this if you have lower back pain. Okay. So you can do that. And then we're going to go and we're going to up arrow or up our finger. We're going to do finger pointing again, and we're going to just do the up one. So make sure you don't put the middle finger. You don't want anybody getting upset with you because you Gave him the middle finger. So we'll do something like this. There's other ways you can test this. If you wanted to create a couple different headline variations, up to you. This next point is important as well. Because we're sending this to the product page, a lot of times I like to just do shop now. If I was sending this into an avatar, I'd then do learn more. If you guys want, definitely like this video and comment down below and let me know if you want a full-blown tutorial like this one on how to set up an avatar and set it to your page. I do actually have a few tutorials on that already, but if you want an updated one, let me know. All right, so there you go. Boom. So image is there, copies there, and now we got to make sure none of these image generations things are being turned on. So we're just gonna hit next and ignore all that. All this enhancement stuff, especially music, turn it off. Turn all this stuff off. It's supposed to enhance it, but we want this to be a natural image shown in the feed with no enhancements or adjustments that can ruin it. So turn all the stuff. It might say 12 enhancements, 3 enhancements, whatever amount you see there, just turn them all off. And then we're going to double check to make sure that's all done and set up properly. So what you're going to do is a couple things. One, you're going to scroll a little bit and make sure everything is good. You're going to make sure your website is working. So just click that up arrow here to make sure it brings it to your website, and it does. Beautiful. So scroll through. The first thing to double check is creative setup. So despite us turning them off initially, sometimes they get automatically turned back on by Facebook. So just make sure this is 0 out of 4 or 0 out of 3, whatever the number is for you. And then scroll a little bit, make sure your copy is good. I would maybe bump this up a little bit so it shows a little bit more of the copy in the hook there. So yeah, you see how it shows the copy a little bit more. This is how it's going to be shown directly in your Facebook feed on mobile for most users, right? So this is the little entry hook here, and we want to make sure this is strong enough so people can hit that see more and want to keep reading. So that's good there. And then we'll scroll down, make sure this enhancement stuff is 0 out of 11. And you see how there's essential enhancements as well. We want to make sure that's also turned off. We can bulk turn those off. I'll show you how to do it in a moment, but just for the sake of this, we're going to make sure these are all turned off, uncheck all this stuff, and make sure everything is 0 out of 6 there. Perfect. If you have URL parameters and you want to add some URL tracking, so in Shopify, when a sale comes through, you can see directly after about 30 minutes of that sale populating, you can see where exactly that sale came from in Shopify. It's under like the customer information when you open up the order and see it. So to get that, you're just going to go to campaign ID or campaign source. You're going to just do, I haven't done this actually in a while. You're going to do, give me a sec here. So campaign name is going to be campaign name. Campaign content is going to be ad name. Campaign medium is going to be ad set name. And then campaign source is going to be placement. I use third-party tracking tools nowadays, so all this is done for me. But if you don't have a third-party tracking tool and don't want to set up another subscription, this is what you would do. So campaign source placement, campaign medium, ad set name, campaign name, ad, and campaign content is ad name. And you can add additional parameters if you want to, but that's kind of how I set mine up. Hit apply. So that way you have those URL parameters, which will attach some UTMs there. Description you can leave blank. Make sure your call to action didn't change and it's still shop now. And once that's all cleaned and ready to go, and you at your website, you know your website's working, we're just going to hit the 3 arrows on add 1, hit quickly duplicate. And now we're going to do add 2. And then I would specify that this is arc 1. You can even put this in parentheses, arc 1. Some might even say this is, angle 1, technically angle 2. But for the organizational purposes, just so you can look back in your cloud project and know what you're doing, you just type arc 1 there. So add to arc 1. So what we're going to literally do is just change the image and the copy. So we'll delete this, go to image. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to now upload the next image that's corresponding to the story. I'm not paying too close attention to that just for the sake of the tutorial, but you should be. So we're going to hit download this. Boom, boom, boom. We're almost 2 hours in. Nice 2-hour masterclass training there. Love it. So then we're going to come here and throw this bad boy in here. Give that a second to load up. And then while that's going, we're going to go to arc 1, which is the second story. And we're going to copy that. So when we copy, it's going to also copy all this other nonsense as well. You could ask Claude and simply say, generate all arcs 1 to 4 for me back to back with none of your input or output. I just want to be able to easily copy and paste each separate corporate story. So you could do that. And then Claude will now start to go back in and just generate all the story without all the nonsense. But I don't want to sit around and wait for that. So what we'll do is we'll scroll back up and we'll go to where are we? Arc 1. So this is Arc 1. We're going to copy this bad boy here. Let's see if Claude's actually doing what I just asked. Yep. So you'll see it's going to start actually generating all the stories back to back. So it's going to be easier to copy each one. But for the sake of this, I'm going to just skip that point. Image is uploaded. We're going to go down to creative setup. Make sure everything is turned off here. Everything, because sometimes when you duplicate and start adding new ads in, things will be turned back on. Just double check, make sure that's all turned off. For crop, we're going to do original, recommended original. Hit next. We're going to select the primary text, hit Control A or Command A, and hit backspace to remove everything. And then we're going to hit Control V to paste that all in. And as you can see here, we have this extra stuff. So we're going to just remove this bad boy here. Boom, 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 boom. And then at the top here, don't forget this stuff here. Remove all the recommendation stuff from Claude. And then I'll backspace this a little bit so it gets shown more in the preview there. And then we're good to go. You can keep the same headline and same call to action. If you wanted to split test different, again, headlines, up to you. The thing that's going to get people to buy, though, guys, is this, right? So now this is an option for you as well to also throw in your website again. Or if you want to see if that, elect not to do that. You can also, even funny strategy here that I'm now thinking about, you can run a split test where you go here and you go to add text option and you copy the exact story again, but you throw in the link at the bottom. So this first story here doesn't have the link. And then the second story here does have the link, right? So you could do that to split test and see if does it make that much of a difference for people going to your product page. Totally up to you. But honestly, I don't think it hurts adding the link in. So we're just going to do that and make sure we have that there. So let's go back to this. Copy that bad boy there. Paste that in, website, and back to Ads Manager and paste that in. All right. So whether they click the link in the story or click on Shop Now, it's still going to be tracked and managed the same way in Ads Manager. It's not going to make a difference. Okay. So boom, there you go. Image, we don't want any of these image alterations. Make sure all this stuff is turned off. So you see how it turned off music in the first ad, but it turned back on in the second one. You got to be meticulous about making sure everything is turned off. Hit done. So creative 0 out of 4, great. Story looks good. Image is proper. Boom, boom, boom. We don't need to do a variation there. You see how essential enhancements is turned on. We can turn all this stuff off in bulk afterwards. I'll show you guys how to do that real quick at the end here, but we'll just do it one more time here. So 0, 0, 0, and just once again, double check, make sure this link here is working and going straight to your product page and everything looks nice, which it is. Boom. So guess what we're going to do 3 more times, guys? Exactly this. So I'll pause real quick and come back. We'll have all 5 ads loaded up here. Alrighty. So as you can see here, ad number 1, its own story, its own image, right? So ad number 2, its own story, its own image. Ad number 3, give it a sec to load, its own story, its own image. Ad number 4, its own story, its own image. And last but not least, ad number 5, its own story, its own image. So there you go. That is everything. And I also just realized the story, when I prompted Claude to give me all 4 stories here, it did not space it out. So it was just going to be one big mess. So you can always just say, I need you to generate each one and stop in between so I can copy that specific one. This is in relation to the 4 arcs and just being able to easily copy each one back to back to back. But anyway, nevertheless, before we get ready to publish this, we're going to hit the first ad here at the top. We're going to hold the shift key on our keyboard and then also at the same time click the last one, which highlights all 5 of the ads under this ad set. We're going to hit the exit X button there. I'm going to hit this drop down next to edit and then go to Advantage plus Creative. And then we're going to just turn off a couple things. So relevant comments is still on for some of these ads here. So we're going to just click that twice to make sure it's zeroed out. We're going to go to multi-advertiser ads, make sure that's good. Make sure use shop to personalize your buyer journey, make sure that's turned off. And then just double check, make sure all this other stuff is clean and congruent. If we go to URL parameters, that's our same URL parameters for all ads. And then we can hit save draft. And guess what, guys? Once that's ready to go, you can just go back here under the ad set itself, hit edit. At the top here where the campaign is, you can just hit publish and schedule that bad boy out, and you should be good to go. All right, so the first thing you got to understand here is that we're going to set this campaign up and we're going to launch this for 3 days. So you're not going to touch anything unless in the first 48 hours you're spending money each day and you have no buying intent. And all buying intent is add to carts, initiate checkouts, or of course purchases. So if you have zero buying intent at all within the first 48 hours, you would turn off that ad set, go back to the drawing board, and launch a new tension point. All right, so that's kind of the SOP for that. But assuming you're getting some add to carts, some initiate checkouts within the day 1, day 2, or a combination of both, continue to let the ad run for a full 3 days, and we operate in 3-day intervals. There's a great chance within the first 3 days you're probably not going to make a ton of money. You might not even break even, or great chances are going to be below break even, and that's fine. Facebook needs some time, especially on a newer campaign, newer pixel, to learn who to show your ads to, based off the copy and the messaging we put together. So you're not going to be profitable in the first 3 days, the first even week of doing this. The first 3 days is just to establish, okay, does this tension point have some potential? Am I seeing people add to cart, initiate checkouts? Is my ad metrics good, right? So before someone can even buy, they got to see the ad. So the path of least resistance, the thing that we take a look at first is our ad metrics, is our CPM within KPI. What's KPI, Alex? Well, ideally, we want to be right around $30 to $40 CPMs, ideally less than $60 CPMs. Anything greater than that isn't horrible, especially in the first couple of days, but it definitely is going to make it harder for people to see your ads. And that brings me to the point of what is even a CPM? CPM is just cost per milli. It's the metric tracked by 1,000 impressions. So in other words, how expensive is it, or how much is it going to cost you to show this to 1,000 people, right? 1,000 impressions. So the cheaper this number is, the more your ad gets to see, more people see your ad. And obviously the more people see your ad, the more likely you are to make more money, right? So the lower this number is, the better. The next thing as well that I'm going to take a look at is CTR all versus CTR link click-through, right? So there's a difference between these two metrics. CTR all, and this is actually being actively changed right now, but CTR all is just the metric of what percentage of people click on your ad in general, whether it's to hit the see more button, whether it's to like, comment, engage. Facebook's actually changing that metric now to have a separate metric for people that specifically like, comment, and share. But as of it currently stands, CTR all is just what percentage of people that see your ad actually click on it. CTR link click-through rate is a percentage of people that click the button, either they shop now or learn now button, or even the link in the ad to your website to go to your product page. So clearly those are two different intents. One is just to see more about the ad. One is to actually, they're hyper, they're definitely warmer and more engaged, and likely have read most of the copy, if not all of it, and are more interested in going to your product page. The metric for this is above a 20%, 25% CTR. You're rolling, you're doing really well. And then the metric for this is above a 2.5% CTR. You're not going to be within KPI within the first few days, but as long as you're kind of close to that, that's essentially what you're looking for. And if that paired with some good buying intent tells you that, okay, there's potential. And that's all you're looking for in the first 3 days. Is there potential with this product and this avatar and specifically the copy that I'm going after? If yes, if the answer after 3 days is yes, there's buying intent, ad metrics are relatively within KPI, might have even gotten a couple purchases. From that point on, your job is to start creating more creatives, doubling down on what is working well and where it's not working well. Obviously, within that ad set, we launched 5 ads. So you have to see and ask yourself, of those 5 ads, which one is getting the most spend and which one is getting the best metrics? A lot of times, the one that's going to get the most spend will get the most metrics, like as add to carts and good CTR metrics, CPM metrics. And now your job is to just keep creating more ads that relate to that and figure out what about your creative did well. Why, what metric is looking good? Is the CPM doing good? Okay, great. Is the CTR looking good or is it not looking good, right? You got to take a look at your ad metrics and make decisions based off of that and not your emotions. You will lose money in the first few days, even in the first week. Your job isn't to be profitable. It's to understand. You're buying data. That's at the end of the day what you're doing. Your job is to understand where the market situates. If your CPMs are really high within the first few days, that tells us that mass desire that we spoke to or that tension point we spoke to is just probably heavily competitive, or maybe your ad sucks. Here's how to identify that. If you have really high CPMs, but your ad metrics are within KPI, like your CTR all is like 25, 30, 40%, your link click-through rate is above KPI. Maybe it's 2.5 to 3%, but then your CPMs are really high. That tells us that copy that you're speaking to is being spoken to by a lot of people. That's just higher competition. Now, if your CPM is really high, but your CTRL metrics are low, right? Low 20s, below 20s, right? Maybe 19%, 21% or whatever. And then your CTRL link click-through rate is also really low, like 1.5, 1.8%. That tells me your ad sucks. Now, obviously, if you have cheaper CPMs, more people would click, but the people that are clicking aren't even getting to that end of the page or end of the story to even go to your product. So that means your ad sucks. You got to understand the difference between whether your CPMs are high because it's competition or if your copy sucks. And then back to the competition point as well. And I'm sorry if I'm speeding through this because it's already been 2 hours, so I don't want to ramble on anymore. You can always just transcribe this video into Claude and have it explain it to you. But another thing to also be mindful of is to the concept of knowing the difference between which CPM is good, which CPM is bad, but also understanding that products don't suck, right? This idea that, oh, the product doesn't work anymore, the product sucks, or the product blah, blah, blah. Your ads aren't performing well, not because the product sucks. If your ads are doing well and your CPMs are really high, and you're struggling to be profitable, there's a good chance that that messaging is what's saturated, not the product per se. Do people just all of a sudden not have knee pain, back pain anymore? Do people not sit down anymore? No. Why would you think the product sucks? It's the idea that the messaging we're speaking to, that's where you could be running into issues. And that's where avatar testing can have, really shine. And it's why I do both and I test both. I have a full training on that inside my community. But nevertheless, that is the things to look out for. And if you test and you add new ads and you try to double down on what's working and you just can't be profitable after about 7 to 8 days of testing, that's when you would test a whole new avatar or a whole new tension point and just launch a new ad set under that same CBO. That was really quick. Testing has way more nuance and details, obviously, but hopefully that's a surface level understanding of what to look for. And this is a snapshot look of a really profitable campaign that I ran. So you can take a look at these metrics and compare that. And this was in the heart of Q1, by the way, when it's naturally harder to be profitable and make money. So you can see all those metrics there. So you can analyze that for yourself. Was that not an amazing tutorial? It was 2 hours. Shout out to you for watching it. Most people won't sit down and watch this entire thing, and that's why they'll still be broke. But for you, I can tell that you're super determined and eager and hungry, and you want to be successful. So I want to offer you the opportunity to join Social Brands Club 3.0. I update this course every single day, and it's much more than that. It's a community of 300 plus other community members that are also in the journey of dropshipping and e-com, and they're working really hard and tirelessly every single day to be successful. So if you do join the community, you're going to get a ton of people to reach out to help along the way. I think the biggest thing that helped me in my journey was just being a part of other people's communities, learning from others, and just soaking up as much knowledge as possible. On top of the, I don't even know at this point, 100 plus course materials teaching you everything on how to find winning products, how to build stores, how to create copy, how to scale copy, how to launch avatorials. It's the full A to Z guide on everything you possibly need. And there's no hidden upsells. I'm not charging you. I don't even do one-on-one coaching or high ticket coaching. It's literally just a community, and I put so much time and energy in it. And then on top of that, you get DM access to me pretty much every single day. So definitely join in. And any other questions or concerns you have, leave a comment down below. I'll have a document to all the resources and things that I shared with you today. There are some scripts I am gatekeeping because at the end of the day, there are people paying for it. So I don't want to just give that all, but you do have enough resources after this tutorial to at least get the ball rolling if that's something you want to do. See you guys all in the next one. Take care.